Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Let's Start Story on What If Naruto Had Harem and Made Hanabi Annabeth. Part 2. So do 4 blue hearts comment, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video and please share with your friends and watch till end. Also check out Patreon for I have upload Harry x Hermione. Uncensored spicy version, link in description. Good thing Naruto grabbed his bag before the Minotaur destroyed Gabe's car and that he keeps most of them in his storage seal scrolls, because he only had to go to the camp store to get the demigod essentials he didn't have as well as some extra camping gear, just in case. Naruto decided that since he was going back to the mortal world, he might as well dressed like a regular mortal. He wore a silvery white t-shirt under a blue denim jacket, gray-blue cargo pants with multiple side pockets to hide his seals, a pair of track t-shirts and his pouch attached to his belt and his headband around his forehead. Naruto also wore his leather necklace and his first Hokage necklace. He still had the money he got from his grandparents, so he didn't need to borrow any from the camp store. But he did get 20 golden drachmas, coins the size of Girl Scout cookies, and had images of various Greek gods stamped on one side and the Empire State Building on the other. Chiron told them it could come in handy or non-mortal transactions. He also gave him Annabeth and Percy each a canteen of nectar and a Ziploc bag full of ambrosia squares, to be used for emergencies, if they were seriously hurt. It was god food and it would cure them of almost any injury, but too much of it can make a half-blood feverish, and an overdose can burn up a half-blood. Annabeth was bringing her magic Yankees cap, W. Hitch was a 12th birthday present from her mom, a book on famous classical architecture, written in ancient Greek, to read when she got bored, and a long bronze knife hidden in her shirt sleeve. Grov wore his fake feet in his pants to pass as human. He wore a green Rasta-style cap, because when it rained his curly hair flattened and you could just see the tips of his horns. His bright orange backpack was full of scrap metal and apples to snack on. In his pocket was a set of reed pipes his daddy goat had carved for him. Grover only knew 2 songs on the reed pipes, and neither sound good. Percy had a borrowed backpack full of the usual demigod essentials and 1 set of spare clothes that he arrived in since his luggage was destroyed along with Gabe's car. They waved goodbye to the other campers, took one last look at the strawberry fields, the ocean, and the big house, then hiked up Half-Blood Hill to the tall pine tree that used to be Talia, daughter of Zeus. Chiron was waiting for them in his wheelchair. Next to him was a guy in a chauffeur's uniform, that Grover told Percy and Naruto was the camp's head of security. He supposedly had eyes all over his body so he could never be surprised. But you could only see them on his hands and neck. This is Argus, Chiron told Percy and Naruto. He will drive you into the city, and, well, keep an eye on things. Bad pun Chiron, Naruto responded. Luke came running up the hill, carrying a pair of basketball shoes. Hey, he panted. Glad I caught you. Annabeth blushed, the way she always did when Luke was around. Just want to say good luck, Luke told Percy. And I thought, maybe you could use these. He handed Percy the pair of sneakers, which looked pretty normal. They even smelled kind of normal. Luke said, Maya. White bird wings sprouted out of the heels, startling Percy so much, he dropped them. The shoes flapped around until the wings folded up and disappeared. Awesome. Grover said. Luke smiled. Those served me well when I was on my quest. Gift from Dad. I would give you the pair Naruto, but I figured with your ninja skills, you wouldn't have much use for them anyways. It's okay, Luke, Naruto said. Listen, Percy, Luke looked uncomfortable. A lot of hopes are riding on you. So just, some monsters for me, okay. Luke shook Percy's hand, patted Naruto on the shoulder, patted Grover on the head between the horns. Then gave a goodbye hug to Annabeth, looked like she might pass out. After Luke was gone, Percy told her, You're hyperventilating. I'm not. You let him capture the flag instead of you, didn't you? Oh, why do I want to go anywhere with you, Percy? She stomped down the hill, where a white SUV waited on the shoulder of the road. Argus followed her, jingling his car keys. Percy picked up the flying shoes and turned to Chiron. I won't be able to use these, will I? He shook his head. Luke meant well, Percy. But taking to the air, that would not be wise for you. Percy nodded and turned to Naruto. How about you, Naruto? Want to give your grandfather's wing shoes a shot? As tempting as it is, I think Luke is right. I can already climb up walls and leap tree to tree. I won't have much use for it, Naruto responded. Percy nodded and turned to Grover. What about you, G-Man? You want a magical item? His eyes lit up. Me. Pretty soon they'd laced the sneakers over his fake feet. And the world's first flying goat boy was ready for launch. Maya! He shouted. He got off the ground okay, but then fell over sideways so his backpack dragged through the grass. The winged shoes kept bucking up and down like tiny broncos. Practice, Chiron called after him. You just need practice. Ah. Grover went flying sideways down the hill like a possessed lawn mower, heading toward the van. I should have trained you better, Percy, Chiron said. If only I had more time. Hercules, Jason, they all got more training. It's okay. I just wish. Naruto knew what was on Percy's mind. He was the only one amongst them that didn't have some kind of magical item or weapon he could use. What am I thinking? Chiron cried. I can't let you two get away without these. He pulled out 2 pens from his coat pocket and handed each one to Naruto and Percy. Percy's was an ordinary disposable cap-on pen while Naruto's was a bit longer with a button on the end that if you click it, the pen part comes out. What got Naruto's attention was what was on the clip of his pen. It was small but it was red circle with a spiral on it, like the one on his old jumpsuit and on the ninja vest Chunin and Jonin worn. Naruto also remembered seeing it on the sword he used on the Fury. Naruto pushed the button. When he did, it expanded into a 6 feet long single-edged Celesti. Al bronze blade with a leather grip long enough for Naruto to hold with both hands, and at the end was the spiral circle. Whoa! Percy said. I wonder. Percy uncapped his pen and the pen grew longer and heavier in his hand. In a half a second, he was holding a shimmering bronze sword with a double-edged blade, a leather-wrapped grip, and a flat hilt riveted with gold studs. It was the first weapon that felt right in his hands. Percy. Your sword is a gift from your father. I kept it for years, not knowing you were who I was waiting for. But the prophecy is clear to me now. You are the one. But beware. The sword has a long tragic history that we need not go into, Chiron told him. Its name is Anaklusmos. Riptide, Percy translated. Naruto, your grandfather gave me that sword. He said. It was a family heirloom of a clan in the elemental nations and when the time comes it should go to you, Chiron said. The sword is known as the katana, a single-edged blade sword unlike most swords we have, but from what I've been told, it's best used by both hands. Its name in Greek is Megali Katahita Dinan but it has a shorter name in a language of your world Uzushio no Oroshi. Great storm of whirlpools. Naruto translated as he gripped Uzuhio no Oroshi with both hands. When he did, the sword felt more right in his hands, like he could slice through almost any monster with it. Use these only for emergencies, Chiron said. And only against monsters. No hero should harm mortals unless absolutely necessary, of course, but these swords wouldn't harm them in any case. What do you mean it wouldn't harm mortals? Percy asked. How could it not? The swords are celestial bronze. Forged by the Cyclops, tempered in the heart of Mount Etna, cooled in the river Lethe. It's deadly to monsters. To any creature from the underworld, provided they don't kill you first. But the blade will pass through mortals like an illusion. They simply are not important enough for the blades to kill. And I should warn both of you. As a demigod, you too can be killed by either celestial or normal weapons. You two are twice as vulnerable. Wait, how does such weapons ended up in the elemental nations? Naruto asked. I grew up in the Leaf and I never seen any celestial bronze weapon. That I don't know. Hermes wasn't clear about the origins, just that it's your birthright to wield it, Chiron said. Great, Naruto muttered. Now, Percy, recap your pen, and Naruto, hit the end of your hilt with the palm of your hand, without hurting yourself. Percy touched the pen cap to the sword tip and Naruto hit the hilt of his sword with his other hand as if trying to play rock paper scissors with the sword. When they did, Riptide and Uzushio no Orochi shrunk down to their pen forms. One last thing. Neither of you could lose your swords in either sword nor pen form, Chiron said. They're enchanted to reappear in your pocket after you lose them, or in your case, Naruto, it might return to your pouch if you keep it in there. But it might take some time, so I suggest you don't lose it in battle. Cool, Naruto responded as he put his pen in his pouch. But what if a mortal sees us pulling out a sword? Or question about Naruto's headband? Percy asked. Chiron smiled. Mist is a powerful thing, Percy. Mist. Yes. Read the Iliad. It's full of references to the stuff. Whenever divine or monstrous elements mix with mortal world, they generate mist, which obscures the vision of humans. You will see things just as they are, being a half-blood, but humans will interpret things quite differently. Remarkable, really. The lengths to which humans will go to fit things into their version of reality. Percy put Riptide in his pocket, feeling for the first time that the quest was real. Chiron, he said. When you say the gods are immortal, I mean, there was a time before them, right? 4 ages to be actually. The time of the Titans was the 4th age, sometimes called the Golden Age, which is definitely a misnomer. The time of Western civilization and the rule of Zeus, is the 5th age. So what was it like, before the gods? Chiron pursed his lips. Even I am not old enough to remember that, child. But I know it was a time of darkness and savagery for mortals. Kronos, the lord of the Titans, called his reign the Golden Age because men lived innocent and free for all knowledge. But that was mere propaganda. The Titan King cared nothing for your kind except as appetizers or a source of cheap entertainment. It was only in the early reign of Lord Zeus, when Prometheus the good Titan brought fire to mankind, that your species began to progress, and even then Prometheus was branded a radical thinker. Zeus punished him severely, as you may recall. Of course, eventually the gods warmed to humans. And Western civilization was born. Did Prometheus did the same for the elemental nations? Naruto asked. No, surprisingly. Chiron said, I would think Prometheus had plans too for your world. But from what I've been told, Naruto, around the time Prometheus provided fire to mortals of this world, a powerful mortal in your world has already taught mortals of the elemental nations how to use Charka. Who? Naruto asked. I'm not sure of his name, but I do know he is considered a man of legends and myths in your world, much as the Olympians are to mortals in this world, Chiron said. Now, keep a clear head, Percy, and remember, you may be about to prevent the biggest war in human history. Relax, Percy said. I'm very relaxed. Percy headed down and Naruto was about to follow, but Chiron stopped him. Naruto. I didn't want to say this in front of the others in case I might discourage them, but can you please look after them? Chiron asked. Percy is too inexperienced. And Annabeth might take things too personally due to her past. Grover is a good satyr, but I'm afraid he might let his past cloud his judgment as well, and right now, you're the most experienced demigod on this quest. Naruto smiled as Chiron reminded him of Iruka. I promise I'll keep them together. Naruto headed down to meet his friends. Ellipsis. Argus drove the group out of the countryside and into western Long Island. Naruto got shotgun while Percy, Annabeth and Grover sat in the back. So far so good, Percy told Annabeth. 10 miles and not a single monster. Annabeth gave him an irritated look. It's bad luck to talk that way. Seaweed brain. Remind me again, why do you hate me so much? I don't hate you. Could have fooled me. She folded her cap of invisibility. Look, we're just not supposed to get along, okay? Our parents are rivals. But Naruto is Athena's grandson and we got along, Percy stated. Best friends in fact, Naruto responded. Forget it. Annabeth said. Argus smiled as he listened to the whole argument. Traffic slowed down in Queens. By the time they got into Manhattan it was sunset and starting to rain. Argus dropped them off at Greyhound Station on the Upper East Side. Not far from the Jackson family apartment. Naruto noticed a soggy flyer on the mailbox with a picture of him and Percy on it. Have you seen these boys? Argus unloaded their bags and made sure they got their bus tickets. Then drove away, the eye on the back of his hand opening to watch them as he pulled out of the parking lot. While waiting, it started to rain and Naruto decided to go to a nearby toy store to find something for him to buy time while they were waiting. Inside, Naruto looked around until he found himself in a Beanie plush toy section, and right there on the shelf in front of Naruto was a lightning-shaped plush. Curious, Naruto picked it up and the toy made a zapping noise. Oh man, this is too good to pass on, Naruto said. He took it to the counter to buy along with a few other things that caught Naruto's attention. It ended up being a good thing because outside Annabeth, Percy and Grover had decided to play hacky sack with one of Grover's apples and Percy kicked the apple too close to Grover's mouth. Grover took a huge goat bite and ate the apple whole, stem and core combine. Grover tried to apologize but Percy and Annabeth were too busy laughing. Even Naruto cracked up at the sight. Hey guys. Unless you want to lose another apple, how about we play with an actual hacky sack, Naruto said taking out the sack he bought. No argued and they were able to restart their game. This time making sure no one passed the sack too close to Grover's mouth. Although Annabeth might have been the best in the previous game, Naruto had her beat. Finally the bus came and the game ended. As they stood in line to board, Grover started looking around, sniffing the air like he smelled enchiladas. What is it? Percy asked. I don't know, he said tensely. Maybe it's nothing. Naruto wasn't so convinced. He reached into his pouch and took out Uzushio no Orochi and started twiddling it in his fingers. They finally got on board and found seats together in the back of the bus. Grover, Annabeth, and Percy stowed their backpacks, but since Naruto's backpack is mostly full of scrolls that has storage seals for his stuff, it didn't bother him to keep on his back. Naruto wasn't the only one fiddling with his magical item. Annabeth kept slapping her Yankees cap nervously against her thigh. Naruto saw something that made his stomach churned. An old lady had just boarded the bus. She wore a crumpled velvet dress, laced gloves, and a shapeless orange knit hat that shadowed her face, and she carried a big paisley purse. When she tilted her head up, her black eyes glittered. It was Mrs. Dodds. But in a different form. Annabeth must have recognized her as well because she clamped Percy's knee and when he looked he paled and scrunched down in his seat. Behind Mrs. Dodds came two more old ladies, one in a green hat, one in a purple hat. Other than the hats, they all looked the same. Naruto remembered from Chiron's Latin class that there were 3 Furies total, and he old bet his headband that the green hat and purple hat ladies were the other 2 Furies. They sat in the front row, right behind the driver. The 2 in the aisle crossed their legs over the walkway, making an X. It was casual enough. But it sent a clear message: nobody leaves. The bus pulled out of the station, and they headed through a slick streets of Manhattan. She didn't stay dead long, Naruto muttered. I thought you said they could be dispelled for a lifetime, Percy told Annabeth. I said if you're lucky, Annabeth said. You're obviously not. All 3 of them, Grover whimpered. Immortals. It's okay. Annabeth said, obviously thinking hard. The Furies. The 3 worst monsters from the underworld. No problem. No problem. We'll just slip out the windows. They don't open, Grover moaned. A back exit. She suggested. There isn't any, Naruto said as the bus pulled onto 9th Avenue, heading for the Lincoln Tunnel. They won't attack us with witnesses around, Percy said. Will they? Most mortals don't have good eyes, Annabeth reminded him. Their brains can only process what they see through the mist. They'll see 3 old ladies killing us, won't they? Hard to say. But we can't count on mortals for help. Maybe an emergency exit in the roof. They hit the Lincoln Tunnel, and the bus went dark except for the running lights down the aisle. It was eerily quiet without the sound of rain. Mrs. Dodds got up. In a flat voice, as if she rehearsed it, she announced to the whole bus, I need to use the restroom. So do I, said the second sister. So do I, said the third sister. They all started coming down the aisle. I've got it, Annabeth said. Percy, take my hat. What? You're the only one they want. Turn invisible and go up the aisle. Let them pass you. Maybe you can get to the front and get away. But you guys. There's an outside chance they might notice us, Annabeth said. You're a son of one of the big 3, your smell might be overpowering. He won't go with the plan, Naruto said. Not when our lives are in danger. Naruto looked at the driver at the bus and got an idea. But I have another plan. Naruto whispered it to his friends. Percy nodded to the idea. Annabeth reluctantly went with it as it was a modified version of hers. Percy took the cap and put it on and turned invisible. It was then that the Furies made their way to them. When they did, their forms began to change until they all looked just like Mrs. Dodds did back in the museum with black coal eyes, sharp teeth and leathery-like wings. What was say was that their handbacks were now whips made out of fire. It was obvious that the Furies knew Annabeth, Grover and Naruto were traveling with Percy. Annabeth drew out her dagger while Grover armed himself with tin cans and Naruto was about to unleash Uzushio no Oroshi's true form. Just when the Furies were about to lunge at the 3, the bus suddenly swerved, causing the 3 Furies to smack into the side of the bus. It also caused everyone else to do the same, except for Naruto who used chakra to stay in one place. Naruto pressed the button and Uzushio no Orochi extended into a 6-foot-long katana. With another hard left and right the Furies was swung around. Naruto moved in on the first Fury and swung his katana clean through the unguarded Fury, causing it to turn into monster dust. That's one down. However, before Naruto could make another swing at the Fury, the bus went into a 180 spin before stopping. Naruto had to jump to the passengers' way as they headed to the bus door to escape, which unfortunately gave the remaining two Furies time to recover. Unfortunately, Percy, whose only job was to use the bus to throw off the Furies, decided to take off the Yankees' cap and yell, "Hey!" which of course draw the Furies' attention. Naruto dug his katanas into a seat, made a series of hand signs. Wind-style double air bullet jutsu. Naruto took a deep breath and fired not one but two balls of heavily condensed air. The two air bullets hit the Furies, slamming them into the front of the bus. Annabeth, Grover, take care the one of the left. Percy, if you want to fight, help me with the one on the right. Naruto ordered. They got over their shock and agreed to the plan. Percy uncapped Riptide and Naruto grabbed his katana and they came at one Fury from both ends who respond. Ed by sending her fiery whip everywhere while Annabeth and Grover handled the other own. The Fury Percy and Naruto was fighting managed to hit Percy since Naruto was too fast for her, but Naruto kicked her in the back so hard it sent her into the floor again. You won't succeed, she screeched out with her tongue flicking all over the place. Her talons started coming at Naruto who deflected them with his katana. However, he didn't see the whip coming at him until it was wrapped around his leg and Naruto yelped, "Hot! Hot! Hot!" Fortunately Percy came to his aid and cut through the Fury with his sword. Meanwhile Annabeth seemed to have took a bit of Naruto's plan to kill the Hellhound back at camp by jumping on the back of the Fury and was now having a bit of a piggyback ride as Grover threw tin cans. The Fury managed to yell that Zeus will destroy them before Annabeth managed to drive her dagger into its neck. The Fury stopped moving before it broke into golden dust and Annabeth landed on her feet. Celebrations were cut short when they heard rumble of thunder above them. Get out! Annabeth yelled. Now! They rushed outside and found the other passengers wandering around in a daze, arguing with the driver. Or running around in circles yelling, "We're going to die." A Hawaiian-shirted tourist with a camera snapped Percy's and Naruto's photo before they could cap and transform their swords back into their pen forms. Our bags. Grover realized when he noticed he, Annabeth and Percy were the only ones without them. We left our. Boom. The windows of the bus exploded as the passengers ran for cover. Lightning shredded a huge crater in the roof. We better get out of here, Naruto said, shouldering his backpack. No one argued as they plunged into the woods as rain poured down, the bus in flames behind them. And nothing but darkness ahead. There are a few rules of being the shinobi Naruto was able to remember, mostly because Kakashi wouldn't let him forget it. 1. Always be prepared for anything. 2. Never go anywhere during a dangerous mission without your gear as it could cost you your life. And 3. It never hurts to pack extra supplies in case you need to support your teammates. However, Naruto never expected that he would be using his extra supplies so soon during the quest, but at least his friends were glad he came prepared. Now Naruto, Annabeth, Grove, R and Percy were walking through the woods along the New Jersey riverbank, the glow of New York City making the night sky yellow behind them, and the smell of the Hudson River reeking in their nose. Grover was shivering and braying. His big goat eyes turned slit-pupilled and full of terror. 3 kindly ones. All 3 at once. Come on. The farther away we get, the better, Annabeth said. There's a road a mile from here. Naruto muttered. Percy stared at Naruto. How do you know that? Naruto shrugged. I don't know. I just do. It's a power of Hermes, Annabeth explained. Remember, he's the god of travelers and patron of anyone that uses roads. It must be kicking in for Naruto. So what? Naruto is a natural GPS. Percy asked. Not exactly, Annabeth said. On land, yes, mostly on roads and paths. But other than that, his navigational skills should be the same as he is in the air or water. So how are we going to go west? Percy asked. I doubt Naruto can support all of us on the way to LA. Well, maybe if we went by my plan in the first place, we might still have our supplies. You realize you're talking about Naruto's plan, right? Annabeth sighed. Naruto sensed a bit of a pride issue with Annabeth. They sloshed across mushy ground, through nasty twisted trees that smelled like sour laundry. After a few minutes Annabeth fell into line next to Percy. Look, her voice faltered. I appreciate what you did, okay. That was really brave. We're a team, right? Percy asked. She was silent for a few more steps. It's just that if you died, aside from the fact that it would really suck for you, it would mean the quest was over. This may be my only chance to see the real world. The thunderstorm had finally let up. The city glowed faded behind them, leaving the group in almost total darkness. And yet Naruto still seemed to know his way to the road, so they continued following him. You haven't left Camp Half-Blood since you were 7? Percy asked her. No, only short field trips. My dad, the history professor. Yeah, it didn't work out for me living at home. I mean, Camp Half-Blood is my home. She was rushing her words out now, as if somebody might try to stop her. At camp you train and train. And that's all cool and everything, but the real world is where the monsters are. That's where you learn whether you're any good or not. There was a slight sound of doubt in her voice when she said that. You're pretty good with that knife, Percy said. You think so? Anybody who can piggyback ride a monster, even a fury, is okay by me. Naruto SMI. Led as it seems that his best friend and aunt finally seemed to get along. Even before Percy was claimed, it seemed that they could hardly get along without some kind of argument. You know, she said. Maybe I should tell you something funny back on the bus. However, she was interrupted when Naruto stopped, causing Grover to run into him and Annabeth and Percy to run into him. During their conversation, they had somehow made it to a deserted two-lane road through the trees that Percy guessed was the road Naruto was talking about. To top that off, there was the smell of food. Fried, greasy food. Across the road was a closed-down gas station with tattered billboard for a 1990s movie, and one open roadside curio shops that sell lawn flamingos and wooden Indian and cemented grizzly bears and other stuff. And a bright neon light sign. The main building was a long, low warehouse surrounded by acres of statuary. The neon sign above the gate was impossible for Percy, Annabeth and Naruto to read because it was in red cursive neon writing. What the heck does that say? Percy asked. I don't know, Annabeth replied. Beats me, Naruto responded. Grover translated. Auntie M's Garden Gnome Emporium. Flanking the entrance, as advertised, were 2 cement garden gnomes, ugly bearded little runts, smiling and waving, as if they were about to get their picture taken. Am I the only one creeped out by that? Naruto said. They're just garden gnomes, Percy said as he crossed the street. Hey, Grover warned. The lights are on inside, Annabeth said. Maybe it's open. Snack bar, Percy said wistfully. Snack bar. She agreed. Are you too crazy? Grover said. This place is weird. They of course ignored him. The front lot was a forest of statues, cement animals, cement children. Even a cement satyr playing the pipes, which gave Grover the creeps. Blah ha ha. He bleated. Looks like my Uncle Ferdinand. Naruto started getting a shiver down his back as he had a strong sense of danger. He was debating whether or not to take out Uzushio no Orochi or wait. Instead, Naruto went for the next best thing. He took out a celestial bronze kunai knife and shuriken and hid them his sleeve like Annabeth hid her dagger, since it was easier to conceal a kunai knife than it was to conceal a katana. They stopped at the warehouse door. Don't knock, Grover pleaded. I smell monsters. Your nose is clogged up from the furies, Annabeth told him. All I smell is burgers. Aren't you hungry? Meat, he said scornfully. I'm a vegetarian. You eat cheese enchiladas in aluminum cans, Percy reminded him. Those are vegetables. Personally, I prefer ramen, Naruto responded. Come on, guys, Grover's right, something about this place feels wrong. Then the door creaked open. And standing in front of them was a tall woman that was dressed in a long black gown that covered everything but her hands, and her head was completely veiled like a Middle Eastern woman. Her eyes glinted behind a curtain of black gauze. But they couldn't see her eyes. Her coffee-colored hands looked old, but well manicured and elegant. She spoke in a vague Middle Eastern accent. Children, it is too late to be out all alone. Where are your parents? There. Annabeth started to say. We're orphans, Percy said. Orphans, the woman said. But, my dears. Surely not. We got separated from our caravan, Percy said. Our circus caravan. The ringmaster told us to meet him at the gas station if we got lost, but he may have forgotten, or maybe he meant a different gas station. Anyway, we're lost. Is that food I smell? Despite the sense of danger, Naruto had to fight off the urge to laugh. That was the most pathetic excuse of a lie he heard since Grover tried to go along with the Mrs. Kerr lie. Oh, my dears. The woman said. You must come in, poor children. I am Auntie M. Go straight through the back of the warehouse, please. There is a dining area. They thanked her and went inside. Annabeth muttered to Percy. Circus caravan. Always have a strategy, right? Your head is full of kelp. The warehouse was filled with more statue, people in all different poses, wearing all different expressions on their faces. And all were life-size, and all looked lifelike, like they were once alive before they were a statue. However, Percy and even Annabeth were acting like Choji waiting for barbecue. Except maybe not as aggressive. Naruto wouldn't blame them. Something about this place felt welcoming while at the same time had the aura of danger. Not to mention the smell of grillades. Why food that would be overwhelming to mortals? Auntie M took them to the back of the warehouse, a fast food counter with a grill, a soda fountain, a pretzel heater, and a nacho cheese dispenser. All air missing is an all-you-can-eat cook-it-yourself barbecue, and the Akamaiki clan probably feel at home here, Naruto thought. Please, sit down, Auntie M said. Awesome, Percy said. Grover said, trying to come up with the lie. We don't have any money. Before Percy could respond, Auntie M said, No, children. No money. This is a special case, yes. It is my treat, for such nice orphans. Thank you, ma'am, Annabeth said. Auntie M stiffened as if Annabeth had done something wrong, but then relaxed. Quite all right, Annabeth, she said. You have such beautiful eyes, child. You wouldn't have some ramen here, would you? Naruto asked, trying not to sound suspicious. Once again, Auntie M stiffened when Naruto asked that, and it took her longer to relax. Sorry, Naruto. I don't serve ramen. But I do make the best fried food if I say so myself. Naruto quirked an eyebrow. He didn't remember telling her his name. In fact, he don't think Annabeth told Auntie M hers. None of them did. And why did she stiffened like that when he and Annabeth talked? Auntie M disappeared behind the snack counter and started cooking. Before they know it, she'd brought them plastic trays heaped with double cheeseburgers, vanilla shakes, and XXL servings of French fries. Percy chowed down the burger while Annabeth slurped her shake, but Naruto and Grover were hesitant. What's that hissing noise? Grover asked. Naruto listened and did in fact hear a faint yet familiar hissing sound. It sounded like something he heard before, but he couldn't remember what. Hissing? Auntie M asked. Perhaps you hear the deep fryer oil. You have keen ears, Grover. I take vitamins. For my ears. Naruto knew better, or at least he think he does. That's admirable, she said. But please, relax. You too, Naruto. You should try to eat something. Reluctantly, Naruto took a cheeseburger and ate it carefully. So, you sell gnomes? Percy said, trying to sound interested. Oh, yes, Auntie M said. And animals. And people. Anything for the garden. Custom orders. Statuary is very popular, you know. A lot of business on this road. Not so much, no. Since the highway was built, most cars, they do not go this way now. I must cherish every customer I get. I bet, Naruto thought. He looked and saw that many of the statues had scared expressions, like they were frightened. Ah, Auntie M said sadly. Quote, you notice some of my creations do not turn out well. They are marred. They do not sell. The face is the hardest to get right. Always the face. You make these statues yourself? Naruto asked. Oh, yes. Once upon a time, I had two sisters to help me in business, but they have passed on, and Auntie M is alone. I have only my statues. This is why I make them, you see. They are my company. There was sadness in her voice that almost made Naruto felt pity until Annabeth stopped eating, sat forward and said, two sisters. It's a terrible story, Auntie M said. Not one for children, really. You see, Annabeth. A bad woman was jealous of me, long ago, when I was young. I had a boyfriend. You know, this bad woman was determined to break us apart. She caused a terrible accident. My sisters stayed by me. They shared my bad fortune as long as they could, but eventually they passed on. They faded away. I alone have survived, but at a price. Such a price. That's when Naruto realized who Auntie M really was. And why there was a strong sense of danger in the air. At this point, only Percy was showing sympathy. Percy. Annabeth was shaking him to get his attention. Maybe we should go. I mean, the ringmaster will be waiting. Yeah, Naruto agreed, especially since I'm his star young acrobat. Grover was eating the waxed paper off the tray now. Such beautiful gray eyes, Annabeth. Yours would be beautiful too, Naruto. If they weren't tainted with blue, Auntie M told them, yes, it has been a long time since I've seen such beautiful gray eyes like that. She reached out as if to stroke Annabeth's cheek. But she stood up abruptly. We really should go. Yes. Grover swallowed his waxed paper and stood up. The ringmaster is waiting. Right. Naruto was all too glad to stand up too. But Percy was still being stubborn. Please, dears, Auntie M pleaded. I so rarely get to be with children. Before you go, won't you at least sit for a pose? A pose? Naruto asked. A photograph. I will use it to model a new statue set. Children are so popular, you see. Everyone loves children. Annabeth shifted from foot to foot. I don't think we can, ma'am. Come on, Percy. Sure we can, Percy said. He was irritated with Annabeth and Naruto for being so bossy, so rude to an old lady who'd just fed them for free. It's just a photo, guys. What's the harm? Yes, Annabeth and Naruto, the woman purred. No harm. Unfortunately they had no other choice but had Auntie M lead them back out the front door into the garden of statues at the park bench. Now, she said, I'll just position you correctly. The young girl in the middle, I think, Percy and Grover on either side of her. And, yes, Naruto, why don't you stand behind? Everyone did as they were told. Not much light for a photo, Percy remarked. Oh, enough. Auntie M said. Enough for us to see each other, yes. Ah, Naruto dear, what are you doing? Naruto was doing some hand signs but stopped. I was deciding what cool pose I should do. I want to make this count after all, Naruto said. Oh, don't worry, honey. Just stand there and smiled. Where's the camera? Grover asked. Auntie M stepped back as if to admire the shot. Now, the face is the most difficult. Can you smile for me please, everyone? A large smile. Grover glanced at the cement satyr next to him and mumbled, that sure does look like Uncle Ferdinand. Grover, Auntie M chastised. Look this way, dear. Oh, Naruto, I told you not to worry about your pose, so will you stop fiddling with your hands, dear? Sorry, force of habit, Naruto lied, stopping at the final hand sign. Percy, Annabeth said. I will just be a moment, Auntie M said. You know, I can't see you very well in this cursed veil. Percy, something's wrong, Annabeth insisted. Wrong, Auntie M said, reaching up to undo the wrap around her head. Not at all, dear. I have such noble company tonight. What could be wrong? That is Uncle Ferdinand. Grover gasped. Look away from her. Annabeth shouted. She whipped her Yankees cap onto her head and vanished. Naruto pushed Percy and Grover into the ground as Naruto looked at Auntie M's true eyes, or rather Medusa's true face. A chocolate brown skin with snakes for hair, which explains why the sound was familiar. My first victim, Medusa said. However, instead of turning into stone, there was a puff of smoke and a statue of Boy Scout that was nearby took his place. Darn it, boy. Run. Grover bleated as he raced across the gravel, yelling, Maya, to kickstart his flying sneakers. However, Percy didn't move. Such a pity to destroy a handsome young face. Auntie M told Percy soothingly. Stay with me, Percy. All you have to do is look up. Percy was tempted until she saw a gazing ball nearby and saw Medusa's true face as well and realize who she was. The gray-eyed one did this to me, Percy, Medusa said. Continue. Annabeth's mother and Naruto's grandmother, the cursed Athena, turned me from a beautiful woman into this. However, a kunai knife was thrown out of nowhere and hit Medusa in the shoulder. She screeched in pain, but it didn't kill her. Don't put all the blame on Athena. Naruto yelled from one place. Your actions has as much fault for your curse, said another Naruto from another statue. Yeah. A dozen Narutos yelled. Naruto had used the shadow clone jutsu during the time of confusion and distraction. Silence. Medusa hissed. I will crush you and your aunt to dust. You'll have to find the real me first. A Naruto mocked. Do you really want to help the gods? Medusa asked. Do you understand what awaits you on this foolish quest, Percy? What will happen if you reach the underworld? Do not be a pawn of the Olympians, my dear. You would be better off as a statue. Less pain. Less pain. Wind style. Hurricane fist jutsu. All of the Narutos made a punching motion and a vortex of wind shot out of their hand and hit Medusa. Grover then came in with a tree branch while still flying, his eyes closed tight. And hit Medusa using his sense of smell. Medusa snarled at the two. Right next to Percy, Annabeth's voice said, Percy. Percy jumped so high his feet nearly cleared a garden gnome. Geez. Don't do that. Annabeth took off her Yankees cap and become visible. You have to cut her head off. What? Are you crazy? Let's get out of here. Medusa is a menace. She's evil. I'd kill her myself. But, Annabeth swallowed, as if she were about to make a difficult admission. But you and Naruto both got the better weapon. Not to mention, Naruto and I can't get close to her. She slices to bits because of my mother. You've got a chance. What? I can't. Look, do you want her turning more innocent people into statues? Well, no, but how? Hello. Naruto said, appearing, causing Percy to jump. Seriously. What's up with you two trying to give me a heart attack? Percy responded. It's fun for one thing, Naruto said, and I thought to drop something off for you. Naruto untied his headband and dropped it into Percy's lap. What? Percy responded. I'll distract her as best as I can with my shadow clones, but Annabeth's right. Since Athena is my grandmother, Medusa won't let me get near her. She already destroyed most of my clones, Naruto said, and the metal plate on my headband has a better reflected surface since I had it coated with celestial bronze. Just don't destroy it. Naruto jumped off to help Grover out, who had thrown another swing at Medusa. What am I supposed to do with this? Percy asked. Annabeth rolled her eyes. Just look at her through the metal plate. Never look at her directly. Wind-style jutsu. Wind-scythe jutsu. There was a sound of shredding wind. When it died down, Grover said, Hey guys. I think Naruto did it. Ruer. Never mind, it did major damage though. You better hurry. Annabeth said. Percy nodded and took out his pen and uncapped it. The bronze blade of Riptide elongated in his hand. Percy followed T. He hissing and spitting sounds of Medusa's hair while keeping his eyes on Naruto's headband. Then, he saw her. Grover was coming in for another bat, but this time he flew a little too low. Medusa grabbed the stick and pulled him off course. He tumbled through the air, hit the real Naruto who wasn't wearing a headband and had jumped in the air to catch him only for both of them to hit the statue of the grizzly statue. When they did that, the shadow clones disappeared in a puff of smoke. Medusa was about to lunge at both of them when Percy yelled, Hey! He advanced on her, which she allowed him approach, 20 feet, 10 feet. You wouldn't harm an old woman, Percy, she crooned. I know you wouldn't. Percy hesitated. Don't listen to her. Grover groaned. Grover, would you get off me? Naruto groaned. Medusa cackled. Too late. Quote. She lunged at Percy with her talons. Percy slashed up with his sword and heard a sickening slock, then a hiss like wind rushing out of a cavern, the sound of a monster disintegrating. Medusa's head fell to the ground next to Percy's foot and blood oozed out toward his feet and snakes were tugging at his shoelaces. Oh, yuck. Grover said. Seriously Grover, get off me. Naruto responded. Annabeth came up next to Percy, her eyes fixed on the sky. She was holding Medusa's veil. She said, Don't move. Very, very carefully, without looking down, she kn. Elton draped the monster's head in black cloth, then picked it up. It was still dripping green blood. Are you okay? She asked Percy, her voice trembling. Yeah, he decided, though he felt like throwing up his double cheeseburger. Why didn't the head evaporated? Once you sever it, it becomes a spoil of war, she said. Same as yours and Naruto's minotaur horns. But don't unwrap the head. It can still petrify you. Grover and Naruto managed to untangle themselves from the grizzly bear statue, both ruffled up and injured. Grover's fake feet were knocked off as his winged shoes circled around them. Great job, guys. Percy said, the Red Baron, and the shinobi half-blood in action. That was fun, Grover agreed, well except crashing into Naruto and the grizzly bear. Grover. grabbed his shoes as Percy recapped his sword. Together, the four of them stumbled back into the warehouse. They found some old plastic grocery bags behind the snack counter and double-wrapped Medusa's head. They plopped it on the table where they ate dinner and sat around it, too exhausted to speak. Finally Percy said, "So we have Athena to thank for this monster." Annabeth flashed him an irritated look. "Your dad actually. Medusa was Poseidon's girlfriend. They decided to meet in my mother's temple. That's why Athena turned her into a monster. Medusa had her two sisters who had helped her get into the temple. They became the three Gorgons. That's why Medusa wanted to slice Naruto and me up, but she wanted to preserve you as a nice statue. She's still sweet on your dad. You probably reminded her of him. Oh. So now it's my fault we met Medusa. Don't even start it, you two," Naruto warned. "Grover and I tried to warn you guys when we were across the street, but no, you were attracted by the smell of greasy fried food like an okonomiyaki to an all-you-can-eat barbecue restaurant." Percy and Annabeth turned red with embarrassment even though they didn't know what Naruto meant. "So what are we going to do with the head?" Grover asked. "I could seal it into a storage seal," Naruto responded. "I have a better idea," Percy said. "I'll be back." "Percy," Annabeth called after him, "what are you?" But Percy had already left into the office. When he came back, he had a box and a packing slips for Hermes' overnight express. He packed up Medusa's head and filled out a delivery slip. The gods. Mount Olympus. 600th floor. Empire State Building. New York, New York. With best of wishes. Percy Jackson. "They're not going to like that," Grover warned. "They'll think you're impertinent." "I am impertinent," Percy said as he poured in some drachmas. "Maybe this time they won't lose the stupid bolt." That's when an idea came to Naruto's mind and he gave his trademark mischievous grin. "Hold on, Percy, I want to add something." Naruto raced back into the office and came back with a handwritten note he made while in there. Then he took off his backpack and dug into it before taking out the light. Ning Bolt plushie he bought back in Manhattan. He also squeezed it, causing it to make a zapping sound. Percy, Grover and Annabeth burst out laughing at the sight of the toy. "Where did you get that?" Percy asked between laughs. "Back at the toy store. I saw it and I just had to get it," Naruto replied. "Put it in," Percy said, opening the box. Naruto was all too happy to put it in. Then Percy sealed it up. There was a sound like a cash register. The package floated off the table and disappeared with a pop. "Naruto, without a doubt, you truly are Hermes' grandson," Grover laughed. Annabeth rolled her eyes, still trying to control her giggles. "Come on, guys. We need a new plan." Everyone was pretty much miserable that night. They camped out in the woods, 100 yards from the main road, in a marshy clearing that local kids had obviously been using for parties. The ground was littered with flattened soda cans and fast food wrappers. They'd taken some food and blankets from Auntie M's, but they didn't dare light a fire to dry their damp clothes. The Furies and Medusa had provided enough excitement for one day. They didn't want to attract any more monsters. Naruto decided to summon one Ado clone to keep watch for them while they sleep. He and Grover took comfort in the trees, using tree walking exorcise and winged shoes, while Annabeth and Percy took the ground. Naruto gave Percy and Annabeth his spare sleeping bags to go with the blankets they took from Medusa's lair. He offered one to Grover, but the young satyr turned it down. Annabeth curled up and was snoring as soon as her head hit the ground, leaving only the boys awake. "This makes me sad," Grover said. "What does?" Percy asked. "The fact that you signed up for this stupid quest." "No. This makes me sad." He pointed at all the garbage on the ground. "And the sky. You can't even see the stars. They polluted the sky." "Tell me about it," Naruto responded. "The Leaf Village is big enough to be considered a city in this world. And it's nowhere near as polluted as here." Grover sighed. "This is a terrible time to be a satyr." "Oh, yeah. I guess you'd be an environmentalist," Percy said. He glared at Percy. "Only an inconsiderate human wouldn't be. Most of your species is clogging up the world so fast." "Ah, never mind. It's useless to lecture a human. At the rate things are going, I'll never find Pam. Like the cooking spray. Pan," he cried indignantly. "Pan. The great god Pan. He would also be my uncle," Naruto remembered. "Being a son of Hermes." Grover nodded. "Maybe he's in the elemental nations. Maybe that's why no other satyr has found him. That's why I want my searcher's license. I want to be the one to find him and bring him back. A strange breeze rustled through the clearing, temporarily overpowering the stink of trash and muck. It brought the smell of berries and wildflowers and clean rainwater, things that might have once been in the woods. Tell me about the search, Percy said. Grover looked at Percy cautiously. As if he were afraid Percy was just making fun of him. The god of wild places disappeared 2,000 years ago, he said. A sailor off the coast of Ephesus heard a mysterious voice crying out from the shore, tell them that the great god Pan has died. When humans heard the news, they believed it. They've been pillaging Pan's kingdom ever since. But for the satyrs, Pan was our lord and master. He protected us in the wild places of the earth. We refused to believe that he died. In every generation, the bravest satyr pledged their lives to finding Pan. They searched the earth, exploring all the wildest places, hoping to find where he is hidden, and wake him from his sleep. And you want to be a searcher? It's my life's dream, he said. My father was a searcher. And my uncle Ferdinand, the statue you saw back there. Oh, right, sorry. Grover shook his head. Uncle Ferdinand knew the risk. So did my dad. But I'll succeed. I'll be the first searcher to return alive. What did you mean first? Naruto asked. Grover took his reed pipes out of his pocket. No searcher has ever come back. Once they set out, they disappear. They're never seen alive again. Not once in 2,000 years. Percy asked. No. And your dad? You have no idea what happened to him. Nope. But you still want to go, Percy said, amazed. I mean, you really think you'll be the one to find Pan? I have to believe that, Percy. Every searcher does. It's the only thing that keeps us from despair when we look at what humans have done to the world. I have to believe Pan can still be awakened. I can understand what that means, Naruto responded. When you live a life where you only see despair or hatred, it helps to have a something worth living for. You sound like you know what it's like, Percy said. I had a difficult childhood, Naruto responded, but I'm not the only one. I met 2 others since becoming a ninja who went through a life of hatred and despair. And all I can tell you is that not all motivations to live starts off as honorable as risking your life to find Pan. There was a moment of silence. How are we going to get into the underworld? Percy asked his friend. I mean, what chance do we have against a god? Hard to say, Naruto said. If it was fall or winter, I say we might have a chance to negotiate at least if Persephone was there. Since she's the only one known to calm the Lord of the Dead. But since it's summer, Persephone should be spending her free time with her mother, Demeter. Oh goody, Percy said. Maybe so, but back at Medusa's. When you two were stocking up on her food supply for the trip, Annabeth was telling me. Oh, I forgot. Annabeth will have a plan figured out. Like having me get beaten by Clarice and Fu R of her siblings while she let Luke get the flag. For the last time, Percy, that wasn't Annabeth's fault, Naruto said. I was supposed to assist you in case you were outnumbered and outmatched, when I heard the hellhound. Naruto's right, Percy. Don't be so hard on her. Besides, she had a tough life, but she's a good person. After all, she forgave me, his voice faltered. What do you mean? Percy asked. Forgave you for what? Suddenly, Grover seemed very interested in playing notes on his pipes. Wait a minute, Percy said. Your first keeper job was 5 years ago. Annabeth has been at camp 5 years. She wasn't, I mean. Your first assignment that went wrong. I can't talk about it, Grover said, and his quivering lower lip suggested he'd started crying if Percy pressed him. But as I was saying, back at Medusa's. Annabeth and I agreed there's something strange going on with this quest. Yeah, I noticed it too, Naruto responded. Maybe it has to do with the warning I got in my last dream, but I don't know. This whole quest seemed wrong. Well, duh. I'm getting blamed for stealing a thunderbolt that Hades took. That's not what I mean, Grover said. The the kindly one Annabeth and I fought seemed to be holding back. Like Mrs. Dodds at Yancey Academy. Why did she wait so long to try to kill you? Then on the bus, they just weren't aggressive as they could have been. They seemed plenty of aggressive to me. Quote. I've been wondering about Mrs. Dodds myself since we started suspecting Hades, Naruto said. She kept asking Percy where is it? Like they were looking for something. If she really was after Percy. Why would she ask that when he was standing right there? Maybe we misunderstood something about this quest, and we only have 9 days to find the Master Bolt. Grover stopped. Well, after the bus incident, I do agree that Hades is somehow involved with this quest, but I don't think it's as simple as Hades taking the bolt, Naruto responded. There was a moment of silence before Percy broke it. I haven't been straight with you guys, he said. I don't care about the Master Bolt. I agreed to go to the underworld so I could bring back my mother. Not a big surprise, Naruto responded. You knew? Percy asked. It doesn't take a genius to know what you're up to, Percy, Naruto responded. If I was in your shoes, I would do the same. However, if the bolt is in the underworld, then I'm going to make sure you get out of there with the bolt as well. Why? Percy asked. I mean, your grandparents ignored you for almost 13 years of your life, right? Naruto glared at his friend. That told Percy if it wasn't for the fact Naruto was in a tree right now, Naruto would smack the back of his head. Longer than I have wanted to be Hokage, I wanted a family, Percy. The closest thing to mortal family I had was the third Hokage, my academy instructor, a perverted Sannin, my friends and teammates, Kakashi-sensei, and even Grandma Tsunade, but most them I didn't see as family until after I became a genin, Naruto said. Now I found out I have 2 living grandparents, 2 cabin full of aunts and uncles, and I don't want to lose them, but at the same time, I'm not about to betray my friends either. So if finding the Master Bolt and helping you rescue your mom if possible can put a stop in this war before I have to choose between friends and family, I'm going to do what I can to see this quest through to the end. That pretty much ended the conversation. Let's get some sleep guys, Grover said, we got a long journey tomorrow. No one UED as they made themselves comfortable as they could for some sleep. Olympus. While Naruto was falling asleep on a tree, Olympians were dealing with a possible war. I know you have it. Just give it back. This is just because Mother Rhea liked me better, isn't it? Zeus shouted. Stop talking trash, little brother. I don't have your stupid toy, Poseidon argued back. It's not a toy. Most of the other Olympians were wondering why they had to be there. Others just wished this argument end. One was just grinning like an idiot hoping for war. Just then a brown-haired 9-year-old girl showed in the hearth. Dionysus finally walked into the throne room hearing the argument. He has only returned because he had to report about the quest. He was rather disappointed that Percy went on the quest, as he had high hopes to turn the son of Poseidon and half-brother of his least favorite half-blood cousin in history into a dolphin. Dionysus, why are you here? Zeus asked. I'm here to report that a quest for your Master Bolt has been issued, Father, Dionysus said. About time. Not only it's been a while since we had a news of a quest, but to be honest, this argument is getting old, the crippled god Hephaestus responded, so. Who's on this quest? Many of the gods were wondering the same thing as it meant bragging rights if it is completed. Chiron has picked the son of Poseidon to lead the quest, Dionysus said. Poseidon had a grin on his face and puffing his chest with pride. There is also Athena's daughter, Annabeth, Athena said with a slight pride and worried as it meant that her daughter was on a quest with the sea spawn. Whatever. Also yours and Hermes' grandson Nagato Yumuzuki. Naruto. Hermes responded with a little pride and enjoyment. No one could blame him since Naruto could possibly bring honor back to Cabin 11 since Luke failed his last quest. Athena eased hearing that Naruto went on the quest. She didn't like the idea that Naruto was still best friends with the sea spawn. But if Naruto was there, at least she didn't have to worry about Annabeth. That's right, Dionysus said, finally the satyr Grover Underwood. Wait, that's 4, isn't that against traditions? Asked the auburn-haired goddess Artemis. Normally, yes, but apparently the oracle predicted that 4 would go on the quest, Dionysus said. Ah yeah, I remember seeing a Oop like that fighting Furies and Medusa, the golden hair archer god and Artemis' twin brother, Apollo. That Naruto kid was really clever modifying Athena's daughter's plan to turn Poseidon's son's loyalty to their advantage. The said Olympian grandparents of the demigods on the quest glared at Apollo as they released their auras on him. However, at the same time Hermes was proud of the fact Naruto used his friend's loyalty and possibly fatal flaw to their favor. Athena was also slightly impressed by Naruto's tactic but had a god feeling Annabeth didn't like it. Oh. That reminds me. Hermes said as it eased the attention. I got a package for Olympus earlier. Hermes took out his magical mail bag and searched through it until he brought out the package Percy had sent off earlier. It's from Poseidon's son. He unsealed the box and opened it. Ew. Hermes said as he pulled the head of Medusa out of the box and showed tea to the other gods. I'm guessing he is not too happy with us. He dares insult us like this. Zeus stormed while Poseidon rolled his eyes. He just lost his temper. And after fighting Medusa and the Furies, who could blame him, Poseidon said with a few others agreeing. Mostly because if the kids get the bolt then the fighting would end. Hold on, there's something else, Hermes said gaining everyone's attention. He pulled out a note and began reading it. He had an unreadable expression on his face before he looked back down into the box. As soon as he did, Hermes burst out laughing, surprising everyone as he had to hold his sides. He's a genius. Hermes called out while the other Olympians looked at him as if he went mad. What did the sea spawn do this time? Athena asked. I'm not talking about Poseidon's son, although he was the one who sent us the Medusa's head. Hermes explained between breaths. Everyone looked at Hermes like he lost it, so Athena picked up the letter to read out loud. Dear Great-Grandpa Zeus, since we are on a mission for your master bolt, I'm guessing you're a little glum about not having your favorite toy, and I bet Percy sending you Medusa's head won't help. So I thought I should send this as a peace offering. And a temporary replacement until you get your bolt back. I hope you enjoy. From Naruto Uzumaki, grandson of Athena and Hermes. What did your grandson send us? The Queen of Olympus Hera asked, a little intrigued as was everyone else. Hermes was still in a laughing fit as he put his hands in the box and pulled out a bright yellow beanie plus lightning bolt-shaped toy. He threw it to Zeus, who caught it and had an angry look on his face. Is this a joke? He roared out but got no answer when he saw all the Olympians either had their hands clamped over their mouths or was biting their lips trying not to burst out laughing. Then Zeus inadvertently squished the toy and made a zapping noise that sounded out through the silent room. That was the breaking point. Apollo, Hermes and Dionysus fell onto the ground laughing while Hephaestus and the war god Ares were gripping their thrones trying not to fall down from laughing. Poseidon had let out a bellow of laughter while the goddesses were giggling madly. Even Hera and Artemis couldn't help but giggle at Naruto's peace offering to Zeus. The laughs were so loud that every minor god and goddess on Olympus could hear it as they started wondering what was so funny. Athena. I never thought this was possible, but I've already like your grandson, Poseidon said, you too Hermes. Every other Olympians nodded in agreement with the sea god. Only Zeus wasn't happy as he was pouting like a little kid. I hate this kid already. Ellipsis. Unaware of his newfound popularity on Olympus, Naruto managed to get some sleep, only to have another weird dream. Time Naruto was in a dark cavern before a gaping pit. Gray mist creatures churned all around him, whispering rags of smoke that he somehow knew were the spirits of the dead. Unlike the previous dreams though, Naruto was on his own. No Percy. Just him. The little Jinchuriki half-blood. I must admit, I never thought you would be the first to be brought to this world, but maybe I can use you, mused ancient cold and heavy voice echoed far down in the darkness. Joined me boy. Stop helping the Olympians. I know what's in you, and they know too, and once you become a threat with it, they will not only abandon or kill you. Join me and not only I won't abandon you, but I will help you control the fox's power and unlock your true potential. I'll never join you. Naruto yelled. Oh, you will. Or your death will come sooner than you think, the voice said. You may think you're safe, but eventually the dangers of the elemental nations you were brought here to avoid will catch up, and the Olympians will make a choice to get rid of you. The ghost seemed to laugh at Naruto as there was a sudden suck of air that pulled Naruto toward it. Ellipsis. Naruto woke with a start that he nearly fell off his tree. Hey, Naruto. Are you planning to sleep there all day? A voice yelled. Naruto looked down to see that his friends were awake and it was Annabeth who called him. Naruto got up and jumped down to his friends. Once on the ground he noticed two things. That Annabeth had made everyone breakfast and Grover had a poodle that was as pink as Sakura's hair, which Naruto learned is unnatural in this world. The poodle yapped at Naruto. Grover said, it's complicated. Normally someone find Grover talking to a poodle strange, but since Naruto was best friends with Kiba Inuzuka who understands his dog Akamaru, he's not complaining. Plus, after hearing about how satyrs saw Lord Pan as their lord and master, he wouldn't be surprised if satyrs could talk to all wild creatures. What's its name? Naruto asked. Percy shot him a, what the heck, look. Naruto guessed Percy just realized Grover could talk to animals and was getting used to it. His name is Gladiola, Grover replied. Hey Gladiola, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto responded. Percy shot him a look that said, seriously. Grover informed Naruto about Gladiola's plan to help them with their quest financially. Apparently the poodle has a reward for its safe return. Sounds good. It will save us money, Naruto responded. Yeah, but how are we supposed to get to LA? Percy asked. Not another bus, I hope. No, Annabeth agreed. She pointed downhill. Toward train tracks they couldn't see last night in the dark. There's an Amtrak station half a mile that way. According to Gladiola, the westbound train leaves at noon. Then we better pack up, Naruto said. Good thing one of the things Naruto packed was his copy of the Gutsy Ninja and Annabeth was there, because he would have been stir-crazy trying to stay put in the train. He probably did Annabeth a lot of good too since her book on architects was on the bus. Only Percy wasn't so keen about reading, so he was the only one stir-crazy. They ended up only getting tickets as far as Denver, Colorado so they can save whatever cash they have left, and didn't get any sleeper car to save cash, which was a good thing too because while they were at the train station Percy and Naruto found their pictures splattered over the front pages of several East Coast newspaper. The Trenton Register News showed two photos taken by Tay tourists as they got off the Greyhound bus. Both had wild looks in their eyes. Their swords was a metallic blur in their hands. The picture's caption read, 12-year-old Percy Jackson and 13-year-old Naruto Uzumaki, wanted for questioning in the Long Island disappearance of Sally Jackson 2 weeks ago, is shown here fleeing from the bus where they accosted several elderly female passengers. The bus exploded on an East New Jersey roadside shortly after Jackson and Uzumaki fled the scene. Based on eyewitness accounts, police believe the two boys may be traveling with two teenage accomplices. Investigations are being led on Mr. Uzumaki's trust funds while Percy's stepfather, Gabe Ugliano, has offered a cash reward for information leading to their capture. How is it the kindly ones attack us, and we're the criminals? Naruto asked. Don't worry, Annabeth told them. Mortal police could never find us. But even she didn't sound so sure. Now, Naruto had limited access to his trust fund without drawing attention to himself. On the first day of the trip, Annabeth and Percy was asleep while Naruto and Grover decided to buy time playing cards. Instead of gambling whatever money they had left, Naruto offered his headband as a temporary laurel for the winner of each game. Naruto actually recommended it so Grover wouldn't practice his reed pipes. The poor satyr was already threatened to be kicked off the train if he doesn't stop. At the same time, Naruto was plotting for some way to get back at Gabe. Only way for the police to know about the trust funds his grandparents left him was if Gabe told them about Naruto's money. He never told Gabe about it. But it doesn't take much brain cells to figure out that Naruto wasn't poor or homeless despite being an orphan. Sometime during their game, Annabeth, who was sitting next to Naruto, laid her head on him. I think Annabeth is warming up to you, Naruto, Grover said. Really? I thought I ruin any possible chance of a family relationship when I suggest changing Annabeth's plan to Percy's liking, Naruto said. Or blaming both her and Percy for falling for the greasy fried food smell trap in Medusa's lair. Grover laughed a little. Believe me Naruto, all you did was hurt Annabeth's pride a little. If Annabeth was really mad about something like that, you would know. Do I want to know what you mean by that? Naruto asked. It's best you find out yourself, or I hope you don't, Grover said. Annabeth was one of the demigods Taliah made friends, wasn't she? Naruto asked. Luke too, Grover replied. Naruto nodded, not surprised, especially that Grover knew after last night. What was Taliah like? Grover folded his cards and struggled with finding the words. Naruto had a feeling that it was a taboo for him. Taliah, well, I guess the best word to describe her was fierce, Grover said. She was a fierce fighter. And her main weapon was a spear and Aegis shield. She was especially fierce protecting those she cared about and valued everyone's friendship. She would fight with everything she have. She was strong for everyone, not just herself. Sounds like she have a strong will of fire, Naruto responded, the will to keep fighting in order to protect your family, friends, and homes even when it seems pointless. Grover nodded. She probably did have it. I mean, she pretty much raised Annabeth for a good 6 months before I found them. She was a big sister to Anne. Beth, and she always had a special place for Annabeth in her heart. She was the best, whispered a voice, making both of them look over to see Annabeth with her eyes open but her head still against Naruto's shoulder. I still miss her. That's good that you miss her, Naruto said. If you miss someone, then it means you truly cared about them. Really? She asked, straightening up as Naruto, what about you? Is there anyone you lost who you miss? Grover acted like he wasn't listening since he already knew the answer from Naruto's Percy's and his conversation the other night. It doesn't take a satyr to know he had people he cared about back in the elemental nations. Naruto nodded, my parents for one. Even before I knew who they were, I missed them deeply and I wished I got to know them before they died. Theirs was also the third Hokage. He was like what you would call a mortal grandfather to me, always looking after me and making sure I get what I need even though he had the village and his own grandson to deal with. Sadly, he died a few months before I came to this world, killed by the only student of his that gone rogue and betrayed the leaf. He sounds like a good person, Annabeth said. He was. Naruto said. What about others that are still alive? Annabeth asked. You mention an Akamaiki back in Medusa's lair. Naruto laughed, that's actually a name of a clan in the leaf. But I do have a good friend that is a member of the Akamaiki clan. His name is Choji, and man, does he like barbecue. You wouldn't think he's aggressive enough to be a ninja. But if you ever call him fatty or take the last piece of barbecue from him, your opinion quickly changes. But to answer your question, yes, I'll miss the friends I had there. To be honest, I'm worried about my friends that me with me to retrieve a leaf genin that went rogue. We sort of split off during the mission when it turned life risking to fight off enemies and I haven't seen them since. Naruto decided not to ment. On the genin that went rogue was his own teammate. That's understandable, Grover said. Who were they? Well, there was the team leader and only Chunin amongst our team, Shikamaru Nara. Before you ask Annabeth. He's smart enough that he probably can go toe-to-toe with everyone in Cabin 6 in battle strategy, Naruto said. Then there's Choji, of course. Then there was Kiba and his dog Akamaru. Since Kiba's clan is known for their super sense of smell and work with ninja hounds. There was also Neji Hyuga, who graduated a year ahead of us and I would guess top of his class since he was considered a gifted genius. Finally, as far as I know, Rock Lee, who can't use ninjutsu or genjutsu but is a hard worker in taijutsu, came in later during the mission to help me out despite still recovering ROM injuries he got during the Chunin exams that almost ended his ninja career. And you don't know what happened to them? Annabeth asked. Naruto shook his head and decided to change the topics by picking up his ninja headband. Anyways, this is the only thing I have to remember out of everyone I either respected, care about, and or saw as a friend. Your headband? Annabeth asked. Even Grover was listening as Naruto nodded. It originally belonged to my ninja academy instructor, Iruka Yumino. On the night I became a ninja, Naruto responded. He was the first adult who openly acknowledged me for who I am. There was a moment of silence before Annabeth asked. You want to see a picture of Talia? Naruto was a little surprised as Annabeth sat up a little before digging her hand into her pocket. In her hand was an old photo that looked like it had seen better days and had a few tears on the side and was a bit crumpled. I always keep this with me. Sort of like a keepsake, I guess, she said as she handed it to Naruto. Naruto scanned the picture and saw what he guessed was a 7-year-old Annabeth. She was actually adorable in it. Next to her, Naruto recognizes his maternal uncle Luke. With his elfish features, and was actually happy. The biggest difference was he didn't have a scar, so Naruto guessed Luke got it after this photo was taken. Then his eyes went to the girl next to them. She had shoulder-length hair that spiked at the end, electric blue eyes, and freckles across her nose and under her eyes. She was wearing a combination of punk and goth clothes. She was smiling. Her gaze had drifted to Annabeth, who looked like she was keeping close to her. In many ways, if the expression Gaara had when Naruto met him reminded Naruto of the way he was before Iruka acknowledged him. Then Annabeth's expression in the photo with Talia reminded Naruto of the way he was after Iruka acknowledged him. Thanks, Naruto responded as he handed it back to Annabeth. She would have liked you. She always liked strong people who had kind hearts, Annabeth said. And considering you're willing to defy Athena's and Poseidon's rivalry to stay friends with Percy, you must have both. Naruto chuckled. It helps to smack the back of his head every time he pushes his luck. Naruto looked at his friend and held back his laughter as Percy had a stream of drool from his mouth. You're right. Percy really does drool in his sleep. He is the son of the sea god, so it makes sense, she said. The three of them laughed along with the whole cabin, which woke up Percy and stared at them in confusion. What? He asked, subconsciously wiping the drool off his face, making them all snicker a little before their stomachs growled a little. I better get us something to eat, Naruto said, standing up. I'll come with you. I need to stretch my legs, Annabeth said as she got up and followed after Naruto toward the dining cart. They headed to the dining cart where there were only few people there, which gave them plenty to eat. Annabeth and Naruto quickly grabbed the trays and filled them up with anything they can find for them and Percy before searching around for vegetarian-friendly meals. May I help you? Someone asked. Naruto looked up to see a young girl with mousy brown hair and eyes that seems to be on fire. The oddest part was that the girl looked familiar. Ah yeah, do you have any suggestions for a vegetarian? Annabeth asked. Well, it depends, what do you or your friend likes? She asked. Enchiladas, that much I know for sure, Naruto responded, but I doubt you have. Here you go, dears. She handed them a container with 4 enchiladas that seemed to come out of nowhere. Thanks, Naruto said, confused until Annabeth gasped as if realizing who the girl was. Lady Hestia, Annabeth said. Lady Hestia? Naruto asked. As in the goddess of hearth and home who gave up her throne to Lord Dionysus to keep peace in her family. The very same, Hestia said with a smile. I'm happy to hear someone as young as you remember me. What brings you here? Annabeth asked. Well, for one thing, I wanted to meet the boy who became the talk of Olympus, Hestia said. Percy is back at our cabin. Naruto said. Oh, no. I'm not talking about my nephew, Naruto. I'm referring to you. Naruto blinked for a bit. What? Hestia nodded with a heart-warming smile. Yes, young hero. I wished I was there to see it, but from what I've been told, that present you sent to my brother has caused quite a bit of laugh. They're even saying that Poseidon admitted to Athena and Hermes both that he liked you for what you did. Naruto was speechless as Annabeth was utterly confused. Poseidon really did that? Hestia nodded. It really was a shocker since my brother and niece haven't gotten along since they made the first chariot, much less than agree on anything. In fact, if it wasn't for Zeus, you probably have succeeded with bringing a temporary peace offering. Naruto grinned hearing that as Annabeth shook her head in disbelief. I'm also here to deliver a message and to offer Naruto something, Hestia said. Message? Isn't that normally Grandpa Hermes' job? Naruto asked. Yes it is, young hero. Hestia said. But as I said before, I wanted to meet you and to offer you something. What kind of offering? Naruto asked, slightly nervous. I want you to be my champion. Hestia said. Naruto went from slightly nervous to confused while Annabeth's eyes were wide. Your champion? Naruto asked. It basically means you will have my blessing, even some powers to help you in the future. In return you will come to my service when needed, Hestia said, but that part you won't have to worry about for quite a bit of time. Lady Hestia, forgive me to say this, but you never picked a champion before. So why now? Annabeth said. True, I never picked a champion before, but I picked Naruto because of his strong will of fire, Hestia said. My strong will of fire? Naruto asked. Hestia nodded and summoned a blazing fire in the palm of her hand. In it Naruto saw all his friends and those close to him in the leaf back before he left. There was Naruto, Kiba, Akamaru, Shikamaru and Choji ditching class. The image of Team 7 getting ready for their first picture. Then Naruto standing up against Nejitu for Hinata. Then Naruto eating Ichiraku ramen with Iruka. Naru. To teaching Konohamaru the sexy jutsu, which changed before he succeeded to the third Hokage visiting Naruto at his apartment. It showed Jiraiya giving Naruto a popsicle during their trip to find Tsunade. And then Naruto eating at the restaurant as Jiraiya talked to Shizune and Tsunade. Finally it showed Naruto on Gamabunta's back going against the Shukaku during the sand and sound invasion on the leaf. You have a strong bond with many people Naruto, some stronger than others. Truth is, what the leaf consider is the will of fire is what empowers my domain, and your will of fire is brighter most of your generation. Hestia said as she closed her fist. I believe it's your will that will help shape the fate of the great prophecy, and I want to help you make sure it falls to our favor. Naruto was stunned to respond. He remembered from Latin class of Olympians picking certain demigods to be their champions, Hera choosing Jason for example. But for him to be offered to be a champion of any Olympian, or former Olympian, and by Hestia of all of them, caught Naruto off guard. Hestia. I'm honored and all, but, can I have time to decide? Naruto asked. Hestia smiled warmly. Very well. Now you have a difficult quest ahead of you, so I won't push it. If you return alive, meet me at the hearth at the amphitheater when you normally do your solo training to give me your decision. Thanks, Naruto replied. What about the message? Annabeth asked. You said you have a message for us. I do, Hestia said. Zeus still believes that Percy Jackson is the lightning thief and won't budge on the deadline for you to return it. Make matters worse, Zeus was angered by Percy's gift, and has sent a monster after you. Great, Annabeth sighed. I knew sending Medusa's head was a bad idea. I'm surprised Zeus isn't sending something special to Naruto since he didn't like his peace offering. Believe me, I'm sure my brother would be happy to get rid of Naruto, but considering the circumstances going on right now, I think Zeus is biding his time with Naruto, Hestia said. Naruto didn't say it, but he had a feeling what Hestia meant. He had the power of the nine-tailed fox sealed in him, and Zeus knows it. Naruto was curious why Zeus hasn't smite him though. The fox demon told him that it would die when he dies. Maybe the old fox was pulling my tail, or perhaps it's like with the monsters of this world, Naruto thought. Thanks for the warning, Lady Hestia, Annabeth said. Do you have any advice for us? Just watch who you trust, Hestia said, niece talking to you guys, and Naruto, remember my offering. Hestia clicked her fingers and disappeared a flash of fire. However, instead of the smell of smoke and fire there was a smell of home-cooked Thanksgiving meal. Naruto and Annabeth took the food and headed back to Percy and Grover. Once back, they told them what happened. Percy had some incoherent words about Zeus until they brought up Hestia's offer to Naruto. Hestia asked you to be her champion. Grover asked. Yeah, I was surprised too, Naruto said, but I haven't decided. She's giving me until after the quest to decide. That's if we survive it, Percy reminded him. Well, for now, I say let's just sit back and relax, Naruto said. No one argued against it and started to eat. Grover eventually fall asleep, deciding if they're not going to discuss about their situation, he might as well sleep. In Naruto's mind, a leaf Jonin with blonde spiky hair and a leaf headband around his forehead was hiding behind the tree as a ninja with a hat, black cloak, like shirt, white pants. Backpack strapped to his back, a blade in one hand and a headband with a question mark like symbol was chasing him. Why don't you just give up? The ninja asked. I'm tired of playing hide and seek. The leaf ninja took out 2 smoke bombs and threw them. They came at the enemy and exploded, sending smoke everywhere. A smoke bomb. The enemy thought. Someone came at him and the enemy attack. The smoke cleared as the leaf ninja was on his hands and legs catching his breath. Give up, the enemy responded. Can I say something? The leaf ninja asked. I don't want to hear it, now die. The enemy shouted, hitting the leaf ninja and forced him into the tree. However, the ninja disappeared in a puff of smoke. The real leaf ninja appeared behind the enemy and said, trying to make me give up. The leaf ninja hit the enemy, forcing him into the ground. Even if you kill me, another assassin will attack the village, the enemy said. There will be no peace, as long as we live in this accursed world of ninjas. Then, I will break the curse. If there's such a thing as peace, I will find it. I won't give up, the leaf ninja responded. Who are you? The enemy asked. My name is, the ninja responded. Normal. Naruto. Hey Naruto. We're here, you can stop reading. Percy yelled. Naruto was reading the gutsy ninja when his friends were yelling at him. Naruto looked up at the window and saw that they were indeed in St. Louis. Apparently sometime when Naruto was reading, Grover decided to take a nap and was just waken up as he still was. Intercom told us we'd have a 3-hour layover before departing for. Grover stretched after waking up from his nap. Food. Come on, goat boy, Annabeth said, sightseeing. Sightseeing. The gateway arch, she said. This may be my only chance to ride to the top. Are you guys coming or not? Gateway arch. Naruto asked. Yeah. Didn't you see it as we pulled into the city? Annabeth asked. Naruto had his nose dug into the book, Percy reminded her. I don't think he even heard your dream and Athena's expectations for her children. Annabeth already told me about it, Naruto said. So do you guys want to go to the arch with me or not? Annabeth asked. Grover, Percy and Naruto exchanged looks. Clearly they didn't plan for this, but it was hard to argue with Annabeth, and they weren't going to let her go alone. I guess it wouldn't hurt, Percy said. As long as we look out for our mystery monster, Naruto reminded them. And as long as there's a snack bar, Grover stated. Ellipsis. The arch was about a mile from the train station. Late in the day the lines to get in weren't that long, but Percy, Grover and Naruto still had to thread their way through the museum while listening to Annabeth talk about how the arch was built. Gr. Over had to bribe Naruto and Percy with blue and orange jelly beans every now and then when Annabeth wasn't looking, just to make sure they listened to everything she said. You smell anything? Percy asked Grover quietly. Grover took his nose out of the jelly bean bag long enough to sniff. Underground, he said distastefully. Underground air always smells like monsters. Probably doesn't mean anything. Naruto understand why Percy asked. He had a strong sense of danger from the tunnel. Naruto kept looking for monsters, but couldn't find anything. Could be that mist, Naruto thought. Gods, I hope not. Guys, Percy said. You know the gods, symbol of power. Annabeth was in the middle of reading about the construction equipment used to build the arch, but looked over. Yeah, well, Hade. Grover cleared his throat. We're in a public place, you mean, our friend downstairs. More like way downstairs, Naruto joked. Right, Percy said, our friend way downstairs. Doesn't he have a hat like Annabeth's? You mean the Helm of Darkness? Annabeth said. Yeah, that's his symbol of power. I saw it next to his seat during the Inter-Solstice Council meeting. But his helm is a lot more powerful than my invisibility hat. If what I've heard is true. Like what? Percy asked. It allows him to become darkness, Grover replied. He can melt into shadow or pass through walls. He can't be touched, or seen, or heard. And he can radiate fear so intense it can drive you insane or stop your heart. Why do you think all rational creatures fear the dark? But then, how do we know he's not here right now, watching us? Percy asked. Annabeth and Grover exchanged looks. We don't, Grover said. Am I the only one who finds it odd that we can't go blabbing off certain names, and yet we can me off any symbol of power for the world to hear like it's no big deal? Naruto asked, eating an orange jelly bean. I mean, you guys just went through a whole conversation about the Helm of Darkness, as if it's not as threatening as our friend way downstairs name despite all of its powers. Grover and Percy just stared at Naruto in shock. Annabeth was as well, but she had a bit of proud mixed into it. Naruto, are you feeling okay? Grover asked. Yeah, why? Naruto asked. Because that's the most logical thing you ever said, Percy said. Naruto shrugged. I guess my Athena side slipped out. Hey Grover. Do we have any orange jelly beans left? Grover and Percy sighed. It was typical for Naruto to brush it off like it didn't happen. Percy and Naruto groaned when they saw the tiny little elevator car to the top of arch. If there was one thing they hate, it was a confined spaces. They got shoehorned into the car and took a long trip up. Finally they reached the observation deck, which Sai described it as a tin can with carpeting silently to Naruto. Rows of tiny windows looked out over the city on one side and the river on the other. The view was good, but Naruto and Percy were both read by the fact they were in confined space 600 feet in the air. Annabeth kept talking about structural supports, and how she would have made the windows bigger, and designed a see-through floor. Naruto noticed that the arch was built next to the river and thought, if this thing was built over source of a body of water while keeping the underground entrance, I bet it would make a good symbol to the big three. No parents. Naruto heard someone asked. He turned to a big fat lady and her dog, a chihuahua with a rhinestone collar. The lady had beady eyes, pointy, coffee-stained teeth, a floppy denim hat, and denim dress that bulged so much, she looked like a blue jean blimp. There below, Naruto told her. Scared of heights. Oh, poor darling. The Chihuahua growled, mostly T. Percy, who was waiting impatiently nearby to get out of there. The woman said. Now, Sonny. Behave. Naruto had nothing against most dogs, but this Chihuahua gave him a sense of danger. It had beady eyes like its owner. Intelligent and vicious. Naruto asked. Sonny. Is that his name? No, the lady replied with a smile like it cleared up everything. Okay, everyone, the observation deck would be closing in a few minutes. Time to get down, the park ranger yelled. Everyone started getting to the elevator, which narrowed down to Naruto, Percy, Annabeth, Grover, the fat lady and her Chihuahua, a small family and a park ranger. Naruto kept an eye on the fat lady who was eyeing Percy. Naruto reached in his pocket where his pen was at when he saw a forked tongue flickering between her teeth. Naruto may have not been in this world that long, but he knew enough to know when something was abnormal. And a lady with a forked tongue was as abnormal as it could get. Before Naruto could warn his friends, the Chihuahua jumped down and started yapping at Percy. Now, Sonny, the lady said. Does this look like a good time? We have all these nice people here and one of them has to be spared. Doggy, said a little boy. Look, a doggy. His parents pulled the boy back. Annabeth and Grover must have finally realized what Naruto did as they inched closer to Percy along with Naruto as the Chihuahua bared his teeth at Percy. Foam dripping from his black lips. Well, son, the fat lady sighed. If you insist. Percy interrupted, did you just call that Chihuahua your son? Chimera, dear, the fat lady corrected. Not a Chihuahua. It's an easy mistake to make. Did she just said Chimera? Naruto asked. The Chihuahua barked louder, and with each bark, it grew. At first it was the size of a Doberman, then to a lion. The bark became a roar. The little boy screamed. His parents pulled him back toward the exit, straight into the park ranger, who stood, paralyzed, gaping at the monster. The Chimera was now so tall its back rubbed against the roof. It had the head of a lion with a blood-caked mane, the body and hooves of a giant goat, and a serpent for a tail, a 10-foot-long diamond back growing right out of its shaggy behind. The rhinestone dog collar still hung around its neck, and the plated-sized dog tag was now easy for Naruto and Percy to read. Chimera, rabid fire-breathing, poisonous, if found. Please call Tartarus, X954. Naruto took out his pen and pressed the button, springing out Uzushio no Orochi at full length. Grover's lip quivered at the sight of the monster. But he managed to take out his red pipes as Annabeth raised her knife. The only one not armed was Percy. Percy, draw out Riptide, Naruto said. Percy didn't respond as he seemed frozen. The lady rolled up her denim sleeves, revealing Shishad's scaly green skin on her arms. When she smiled she revealed to have gangs. The pupils in her eyes were sideways slits, like a reptile. You're Echidna, Annabeth said, mother of all monsters. The lady made a hissing noise that Naruto guessed was her laughter. That's right, hero. Zeus gave me specific orders to kill the son of Poseidon while my Chimera can take care of your friends. The Chimera roared at the demigods before charging at them. Annabeth, back me up. Naruto ordered as he charged at the Chimera. Annabeth followed Naruto and both of them slashed at the beast. Annabeth's knife only bounced off the rhinestone collar, but Naruto managed to slash at its paw before the Chimera slashed its tail at him. Naruto ducked and dodged as Annabeth backed off. Before they could go at it again, the Chimera roared, and this time when it did, fire fired out of its mouth. Naruto went through hand signs. Wind style. Wind scythe jutsu. Naruto took a deep breath and fired a tornado of slashing wind. The wind collided with the fire, and instead of putting it out, the wind fed the fire to the point it caused a small explosion, sending shockwave and black smoke throughout the room. This isn't going to work, Naruto thought. We need to get in close to get a good blow. Percy and Annabeth charged at the Chimera and managed to slash at the monster with their sword and knife as Grover played a quick tune that caused the Chimera to go in a fit of confusion. It tried to blow fire at them with no success other than destroying the inside of the arch. That's when Naruto got an idea. But before Naruto could make his move, Percy moved and struck at the Chimera. Percy wasn't so lucky this time. His blade sparked off the dog's collar and left himself open for the serpent tail to sink its fangs into Percy's calf. Percy screamed in pain as the serpent's tail wrapped around his sword and threw it out of the hole caused by the flames earlier toward the Mississippi River. Percy. Annabeth and Grover yelled. Hey big guy. Naruto yelled. I read you lost to a walking disaster of a half-blood one. The chimera turned just for Naruto to throw a piece of rubble at the chimera. However, instead of hitting the beast, it went under it as the chimera blew another jet of fire. It hit Naruto and caused him to erupt in flames. Naruto. Idiot. We're not supposed to kill the blonde boy. Echidna yelled. The chimera turned around, but before it could respond, a puff of smoke appeared under it and a celestial bronze katana struck under its jaw. Chimera whimpered before turning into golden dust. Right where Naruto's kunai was, it was the actual Naruto, now covered in monster dust, as the one that was on fire disappeared in a puff of smoke. Echidna glared at Naruto with pure rage. She looked as if she wanted to destroy the boy. But before she could, there was rumbling outside. You're lucky Zeus fears the demon sealed inside you, boy, otherwise you would be dead, Echidna said. But since your friend has no chance of surviving, my job is done, but I will get you back. Echidna turned into flash fire before disappearing. Naruto. Percy's badly hurt, Annabeth yelled. Naruto rushed over to his friend. Percy was sickly pale and where the snake bit him was turning green from poison. We need to get him in the river, Annabeth said, if creek water can heal his wounds. Maybe a larger source of water can remove the poison. Naruto and Grover were skeptical, but they didn't suggest any better ideas. Grover, take Percy out of here and drop him in the water, Naruto said. Hopefully Poseidon's blood will prevent Percy to drown. Grover nodded reluctantly. He picked up Percy, shouted, Maya, and flew out of the hole. Naruto, what did Echidna meant back there, Annabeth said. About the demon inside you. Naruto's heart sank. He'd forgotten that Echidna blabbed off about his secret in front of his friends. At that point, the park ranger managed to open T. He emergency doors and he and the family got out of there. Naruto had a feeling that if they went down there, the authorities would be down there waiting for them. Naruto was already in trouble due to the mist and the bus accident, along with Percy, and he doubted he would be in any less trouble now. Tell you later, Naruto said, we need to get out of here. So hold on. Hold on. Wah. Naruto, what are you doing? Annabeth screamed as Naruto picked her up and carried her bridal style. Naruto didn't respond as he walked straight to the hole from the battle. Oh no. Not that way. Can't we just take the elevator? Annabeth screamed before Naruto jumped off the archway with. Annabeth screamed and closed her eyes as the wind whipped against her face until suddenly it stopped. At first she was confused. Until she opened her eyes and saw that Naruto had somehow stuck his feet to the side of the archway and was now walking down it with a big goofy grin on his face. Naruto, you jerk. Annabeth responded. Sorry, I couldn't help it. Naruto laughed. You should have seen your face though. Annabeth was fuming mad, mostly at Naruto, but somewhat at herself for falling for it. Of course Naruto would walk down the arch. It'd been obvious since the quest started. The mist covered up Naruto's ninja tricks, somewhat, but still it was reckless. When they got safely to the ground, Annabeth slapped Naruto. That's for scaring me to death. Annabeth snapped, now come on. We better go find Grover and Percy. Naruto rubbed his cheek, which was bright red, as he followed her. But not before hearing a news reporter. Channel 5 has learned that surveillance cameras showed 4 adolescent children going wild on the observation deck, somehow setting off freak explosions. Hard to believe, John, but that's what we're hearing. Naruto didn't need to know who they were talking about to know he and his friends were in deep trouble. Is he though? Percy won't be happy about that. Ellipsis. They found Grover waiting at the riverside as Percy seemed to finally came out of the riverside. Anything yet? Annabeth asked. Grover shook his head. Not yet. He has been in there for a few minutes. How did you two get down? I carried Annabeth down the side of the arch, Naruto said. Just then Percy surfaced and began walking out of the water completely dry. Annabeth and Grover greeted him with a hug and Naruto gave him a high five. Gangway. They heard a cop yelled. The crowd near them parted as a couple of paramedics hustled out, rolling at the mother from the arch. She was saying. And then this huge dog, this hug fire-breathing chihuahua. Okay. Ma'am, the paramedic said. Just calm down. Your family is fine. The medication is starting to kick in. I'm not crazy. One boy destroyed the monster and two more flew out of the hole. At this point Annabeth, Percy, Grover and Naruto disappeared in the crowd. They passed some reporters that was doing a breaking news, Percy Jackson and Naruto Uzumaki. That's right, Dan. Channel 12 has learned that the two boys that might took part in this explosion fits the description of the two young men wanted by authorities for a serious New Jersey bus accident 3 days ago. And the boys is believed and two more accomplices are believed to be traveling west. For our viewers at home, here is a photo. They quickly got out of there. It wasn't until they were back. To the Amtrak station Percy told them about some strange underwater lady and her message. Whoa, said Grover. We've got to get you Santa Monica. You can't ignore a summons from your dad. At least we made it to the Amtrak. Naruto said. Right, but one of these days I'm going to find out what echidna meant, Annabeth warned Naruto. What is she talking about? Percy asked. A long story, Naruto replied. The train rolled into Denver on June 14th, giving the three demigods and satyr a week until their deadline. No one have eaten since the night before since Naruto's trust funds was still being blocked out due to the investigation on him and Percy. Not to mention none of them had a decent shower since Camp Half-Blood, which came to be noticeable. Especially since Naruto had to abo. The Amtrak covered in monster dust from destroying the Chimera from Bello. The good news for Naruto and Grover was that they haven't had to hear Annabeth and Percy argue at each other since Street Lewis. They learned the reason was that Percy and Annabeth made peace and agreed to work together while Naruto was reading the Gutsy Ninja and Grover took a nap. Let's try to contact Chiron, Annabeth said. I want to tell him about your talk with the river spirit. I thought we can't use phones, Percy said. I'm not talking about phones, Annabeth said. Oh, I got to see this, Naruto responded. They wandered through downtown for about half an hour looking for, well, Naruto and Percy didn't know what they were looking for. They were just following Annabeth who knew what they were looking for. Compare to St. Louis humidity. Denver, Colorado was hot and dry. Everywhere they turned, the Rocky Mountains seemed to be staring at them. Finally they found an empty do-it-yourself car wash. They veered toward the stall farthest from the street, keeping their eyes open for patrol car. Mostly because Annabeth figured they were all wanted by now, but partly because it would be suspicious that our adolescents were hanging out at the car wash without a car. Gee Annabeth, I know we smell, but is this necessary? Naruto joked. Shut up, Naruto, Annabeth grumbled. What exactly are we doing? Percy asked. Grover took out the spray gun and grumbled. It's 75 cents. I only got 2 quarters left. Annabeth. Don't look at me, she said. The dining car wiped me out. Naruto and Percy fished out their change, which combined had 5 quarters, 6 nickels and a dime, mostly from Naruto's end. Naruto still had his backpack despite all the battles they went through, but since he left camp thinking he can use his trust fund, the change he did have was actually what he saved from his portion of the reward money. Naruto, how is it you have more change than the rest of us when you're supposed to be broke? Percy asked. Naruto shrugged. I tried to save what I got. Grover took one of Naruto's quarters. Excellent, Grover said. We could do it with a spray bottle, of course, but the connection isn't as good. And my arm gets tired of pumping. What are you talking about? Naruto asked. Grover fed the quarter and set the knob to find mist. I'm ing. Instant messaging. Percy asked. Iris messaging. Annabeth corrected. Iris, as in the goddess of rainbows. Naruto asked. Annabeth nodded. She also carries messages for the gods, sort of like Hermes, but Iris' way is more face to face with who you want to deliver the message to, Annabeth replied. Face to face. Percy and Naruto asked. The point is, if you know how to ask, and she's not too busy, she'll do the same for half-bloods, Annabeth stated. You're going to summon the goddess with a spray gun? Percy asked. Grover pointed the nozzle in the air and water hissed out in a thick white mist. Unless you know an easier way to make a rainbow. Sure enough, late afternoon light flickered through the vapor and broke into colors. Annabeth held her palm out to Naruto. Drachma, please. Naruto pulled off his backpack and dug through it until he pulled out one of the drachmas he got from camp and handed it to Annabeth. She raised the coin over her head. Oh goddess, accept our offering. She threw the drachma into the rainbow. It disappeared in a golden shimmer. Half-Blood Hill, Annabeth requested. It didn't take the mist long to form an image of the strawberry fields with the Long Island Sound in the distance. They seemed to be on the porch of the big house. Standing there with his back turned to them was a sandy-haired guy in shorts and an orange tank top. He was holding a bronze sword and seemed to be staring intently at something down in the meadow. Hey Uncle Luke! Naruto yelled, knowing that would get the guy's attention. He turned, eyes wide. The mist made it look as if he was 3 feet in front of them. Percy. Naruto. His scarred face broke into a grin. Is that Annabeth, too? Thank the gods. Are you guys okay? We're, fine, Annabeth stammered as she started trying to ending her dirty t-shirt and comb the loose hair out of her face. We thought. Chiron, I mean. He's down at the cabins. Luke's smile faded. We're having some issues with the campers. Listen, is everything cool with you? Is Grover all right? I'm right here, Grover called. He struggled in order to position of the hose so he appeared. Maybe I should help, Grover, Naruto offered. I got it. Zhu. Then a big Lincoln Continental pulled into the car wash with its stereo turned to maximum hip-hop. As the car slid into the next stall, the bass from the subwoofers vibrated so much, it shook the pavement. What's that noise? Luke yelled. I'll take care of it, Annabeth said. No, I will, Naruto said. The owner of the car and his buddies were young men in their 20s. They didn't look much like troublemakers. But if there were laws against disturbing the peace, Naruto would guess that their music was so loud they might as well be breaking them. Excuse me. Naruto yelled as he walked up to the driver who stepped out of the car. Could you turn down your music? The guy looked at Naruto and sneered at him. Get lost, kid, he said, shoving Naruto out of the way. Good thing no one else was there. Otherwise they would have created a scene. I will ask again, please turn the music down, Naruto said as the driver stopped and turned to look at Naruto. When he did, his buddy got out of the car. Hey, what's the hold up? He asked. Some snot-nosed runt doesn't know when to keep his nose out of other people's business. I said get lost, you little punk. Only when you turn down that music, Naruto said flatly. The driver growled as his friend walked next to him. You're playing with fire, runt. I suggest you leave and stop bothering us, he said as he pulled out a Swiss Army knife. Fro. His pocket as if that was intimidating. Sweet yourself, Naruto made the hand sing. What are you? Transform. Ellipsis. Percy, Luke, Annabeth and Grover were talking about the quest when they heard Naruto. They turned to see only Naruto transforming back to normal as 2 men were on the ground out cold with bloody nose. What was that about? Luke asked. Annabeth, Percy and Grover didn't know how to answer as Naruto turned down the music. Luke, it looks like we might have to go, Percy said. Okay. Take care of yourself out there in Denver. Tell Naruto to continue making Cabin 11 proud, Luke said. And Grover, don't worry. No one would be turned to a pine tree this time. They said their goodbyes before Grover swiped at the mist, disconnecting the message. Hey guys. Did I miss anything? Naruto asked. Naruto. What did you do? Annabeth asked. Oh, don't worry. Hopefully the mist will alter their memories to make them think they had a perverted dream, Naruto said. To be honest, I was surprised my jutsu worked at all. You know what? I don't want to know, Annabeth said. Come on, let's find some dinner. Ellipsis. A few minutes later, they were sitting at a booth in a gleaming chrome diner. All around them, families were eating burgers and drinking malts and sodas. Finally the waitress came over. She raised her eyebrow skeptically. Well, we, want to order dinner, Percy said. You kids have money to pay for it. Grover's lower lip quivered. Annabeth looked ready to pass out from hunger and Naruto was eyeing the menu for food he wished he had his money to pay for. Suddenly there was a rumble shook the whole building. A motorcycle the size of a baby elephant had pulled up to the curb. All conversation in the diner stopped. The motorcycle's headlight glared red. Its gas tank had flames painted on it. And a shotgun holster riveted to either side, complete with shotguns. The seat was leather, but the leather looked like, well, Caucasian human skin. The guy on the back would have made a pro wrestler run for mama. He was dressed in a red muscle shirt and black jeans and a black leather duster, with a hunting knife strapped to his thigh. He wore red wraparound shades. And he had the cruelest and brutal face with an oil black crew cut and cheeks that were scarred from many, many fights. As he walked into the diner, a hot, dry wind blew through the place. All the people rose, as if they were hypnotized. But the biker waved his hand dismissively and they all sat down again. Everybody went back to their conversations. The waitress blinked and asked again, "You kids have money to pay for it?" The biker said, "It's on me." He slid into their booth, which was way too small for him, and crowded Annabeth and Grover together where they barely have any elbow room between the two of them and the biker. He looked up at the waitress, who was gaping at him, and said, "Are you still here?" He pointed at her, and she stiffened. She turned as if she'd been spun around, then marched back toward the kitchen. The biker turned to Percy and Naruto. The boys immediately had a boiling feelings of anger, resentment, and bitterness. The biker gave them a wicked grin. "So you're old Seaweed's kid. And old Wise Mouth and Messenger's Jinchuriki grandson." Naruto glared at the man, to the fact his eyes flickered between gray-blue to red with fox-like slits. Naruto quickly realized the feelings he was having was coming from this guy as well as who this guy was. Percy on other hand asked disrespectfully, "What's it to you?" Annabeth flashed Percy a warning. "Percy, this is." The biker raised his hand. "Sake," he said. "I don't mind a little attitude. Long as you remember who's the boss. You know who I am, right, little cousin?" That's when it dawned to Percy who the guy was. "You're Clarissa's dad," he said. "Ares, god of war. So you're War Girl's dad," Naruto said. Ares grinned and took off his shades. Where his eyes should have been, there was only fire, empty sock. TS glowing with miniature nuclear explosions. "That's right, punks. And I heard you," he pointed at Percy, "broke Clarissa's spear. She was asking for it. Probably. That's cool. I don't fight my kids' fights, you know. What I'm here for, I heard you were in town. I got a little proposition for you." The waitress came back with heaping trays of food, cheeseburgers, fries, onion rings, and chocolate shakes. Ares handed her a few gold drachmas. She looked nervously at the coins. "But, these aren't." Ares pulled out his huge knife and started cleaning his fingernails with it. "Problem, sweetheart." The waitress swallowed. Then left with the gold. "You can't do that," Percy told Ares. "You can't just threaten people with a knife." Ares laughed. "Are you kidding? I love this country. Best place sin. CE Sparta. Well, second best after the village hidden in the stone and mist in the elemental nations. There they really knew how to train their ninjas. I even had some infamous kids there. Heck, one even became one of the most powerful swordsmen of his village. A shame he went down the way he did at that bridge, in the land of waves. He had potential, especially with his sword," Ares continued. At Phi. RST Naruto frowned before his eyes widened with realization. "Zabuza Momochi. He was your son." "Yep." Ares grinned. "You met him." "Met him, I fought him," Naruto responded. "My teammates were on a escort and protection mission for a guy Zabuza was supposed to kill at the land of waves." "Really? Well. Your squad must have been really lucky, or really good," Ares said. "Anyways, I got a proposition for you and your friend. I need you to do me a favor." "What favor could we do for a god?" Percy asked. "Something a god doesn't have time to do himself. It's nothing much. I left my shield at an abandoned water park here in town. Was going a little date with my girlfriend. We were interrupted. I left my shield behind. I want you to fetch it for me. Why don't you go back and get it yourself?" The fire in Ares' eye sockets glowed a little hotter. "Why don't I turn you into a prairie dog and run you over with my Harley?" "Because I don't feel like it. A god is giving you an opportunity to prove yourself, Percy Jackson. Will you prove yourself a coward?" He leaned forward. "Or maybe you only fight when there's a river to dive into, so your daddy can protect you." Percy clutched his fist but knew Ares' power was causing his anger. "We're not interested," Percy said. "We've already got a quest." Ares' fiery eyes showed blood and smoke and corpses on the battlefield. "I know all about your quest, punk. When that item was first stolen, Zeus sent his best out looking for it. Apollo, Athena, Artemis, and me, naturally. If I couldn't sniff out a weapon that powerful," he licked his lips, as if the very thought of the master bolt made him hungry. "Well, if I couldn't find it, you got no help. Even with a puny shinobi legacy." "Hey," Naruto responded. "Nevertheless, I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. Your dad and I go way back. After all, I'm the one who told my suspicions about old corpse breath. You told him Hades stole the bolt. Naruto asked. Sure. Framing somebody to start a war. Oldest trick in the book. I recognized it immediately. In a way you got me to thank for your little quest. Thanks, Percy grumbled. Hey, I'm a generous guy. Naruto rolled his eyes. Ares didn't seem to notice as he continued. Just do my little job, and I'll help you on your way. I'll arrange a ride west for you and your little friends. We're doing fine on our own, Percy argued. Percy. Have you forgotten we have no transportation, and you Annabeth Grover don't backpacks? Naruto asked. Not to mention due to you know what, I don't have access to my trust fund. Not to mention you have no clue what you're up against, Ares stated. Help me out, and maybe I'll tell you something you need to know. Something about your mom. My mom. Naruto scowled at Ares. If Percy had one huge weakness in this quest, it's his mother. It was no secret that Percy still wants to save his mother and Naruto been trying to keep his eye on his friend to make sure he doesn't do anything that ruin the mission. Ares grinned. That got your attention. The water park is a mile west on Delancey. You can't miss it. Look for the Tunnel of Love ride. What interrupted your date? Percy asked. Something scared you off. Ares bared his teeth in a threatening look that Naruto and Percy recognized from Clarice. But at the same time, Ares looked nervous. Then it dawned to Naruto. After all this time, your brother setting up traps for your dates, Naruto said. Ares' eyes blazed. You're lucky you won the favoritism of most of Olympus and that Zeus fears the monster in you, boy. Otherwise you would have been dead a long time ago. But one of these days, that luck will wear out. Keep that in mind. Naruto glared even harder at the war god as he continued. I'll meet you back Jerry when you're done. Don't disappoint me. After that Naruto and Percy passed out just long enough for Ares to disappear because when they woke up the war god was no longer there and the motorcycle was gone. Not good, Grover said. Ares sought you out, Percy. This is not good. Well, I for one now believe what he said about Zabuza being his son, Naruto said. With an exception of the nuclear eyes. Ares' glare matches exactly like Zabuza's. Who is Zabuza? Annabeth asked, and why did Ares said you were lucky to be alive if you faced him? Long story, Naruto replied. The request is probably some kind of trick, Percy said. Forget Ares. Let's just go. But first I finish this cheeseburger, Naruto said grabbing his burger causing his friends stared at him. What? Ares may be a pain, but I'm not going to pass on food. Besides, it's not like Ares made these himself. No one argued against it, plus they were hungry. We can't avoid Ares' request, Percy, Annabeth said. I don't like it any better than you. But to ignore the gods causes nothing but bad fortune, and in this quest, that's the least we need. Fine, Percy mumbled. But why does he need us? Maybe it's a problem that requires brains, Annabeth said. Ares has strength. That's all he has. Even strength has to bow to wisdom sometimes. Naruto thought about the message back during the Chunin exam. Hey, it makes sense. What? Percy asked. Nothing, just something from my past, Naruto responded. To be honest, I'm a bit curious to see the contraction used to scare Ares though, but at the same time I hope it's not active. What makes you think it's a machine? Percy asked. Annabeth and Grover shook their head in disbelief. Obviously Percy was the only one who haven't figured it out. Ellipsis. The sun was Sin King behind the mountains by time they found the water park. Judging from the sign, it once had been called Waterland, but now some of the letters were smashed out, so it read Watrad. The main gate was padlocked and topped ith barbed wire. Inside, huge dry water slides and tubes and pipes curled everywhere, leading to empty pools. Old tickets and advertisements fluttered around the asphalt. It looked sad and creepy with the sun setting. If Ares bring his girlfriend here for a date, Percy said, staring up at the barbed wire, I hate to see what she looked like. Naruto held back a snicker at his friend's ignorance. Percy. Annabeth warned. Be more respectful. Why? Because his girlfriend is very temperamental. You don't want to insult her looks, Grover added. Who is she? Percy asked. Echidna. No, Aphrodite. Grover said, a little dreamily. The goddess of love. Isn't she married? Percy asked. Hephaestus. Your point? Grover asked. Oh, Percy responded, finally getting the idea. So how do we get in? Maya. Grover's shoes sprouted wings. He flew over the fence, did an unintended somersault in midair, then stumbled to a landing on the opposite side. He dusted off his jeans. As if he planned the whole thing. You guys coming? Annabeth and Percy were about to start climbing when Naruto stopped them. Hold on guys, I want to try something. Naruto walked over to the padlock, kneeled down. Touched the lock with his hands, closed his eyes and concentrated. After a few seconds, Naruto felt a tingling sensation in his hands as he could sense the internal pins that controlled the lock. Naruto concentrated harder until he heard the pins click. Naruto grabbed the lock and pulled down, and sure enough it came out and Naruto undid it with the chains. When he was done Naruto turned to Percy and Annabeth, who were surprised at what just happened as Naruto did a bow. Even Grover was shocked. Naruto, how did you know you could do that? Annabeth asked. I didn't, but I just had a gut feeling that I could since Hermes is the god of thieves, Naruto said. Why? Isn't that a power of Hermes' kids? It is, but it's a rare gift among Hermes' kids, Annabeth said. For instance, Luke has that power but the Stoll brothers don't. Sweet. Naruto said tossing the lock in the air and caught it. Either way, that was cool, Percy said. Well, come on. Naruto said, we better go inside before someone notice us. They nodded as they pushed the gate in and head in. They closed the gate, hoping no one wouldn't notice the missing chain and padlock. The shadows grew long as they walked through the park. Checking out the attractions. Naruto had a good laugh at some of the names. Ankle Biter Island, Head Over Wedgie, and Where's My Swimsuit? They found a souvenir shop that had been left open. Merchandise still lined the shelves. Snow globes, pencils, postcards, and racks of clothes, Annabeth said. Fresh clothes. Yeah, I said. But you can't just watch me. He snatched an entire row of stuff of racks and disappeared into the changing room. A few minutes later she came out in Waterland flower print shorts, a big red Waterland t-shirt, and commemorative Waterland surf shoes. A Waterland backpack was slung over her shoulder, obviously stuffed with more goodies. What the heck? Grover said. Soon enough all four of them were decked out like walking advertisement for the defunct theme park. Even Naruto changed into some of it since the clothes he brought on the trip were used and dirty. Once they were done they continued searching for the tunnel of love. So Ares and Aphrodite, Percy said. Trying to keep his mind off the growing dark, they have a thing going. That's old gossip, Percy, Annabeth responded. 3,000-year-old gossip. What about Aphrodite's husband? Well, you know, she said. Hephaestus. The blacksmith. He was crippled when he was a baby, thrown off Mount Olympus by Zeus. I thought it was by Hera, Naruto said. The story differs, Naruto. Annabeth responded. Anyways, cause of it, Hephaestus isn't exactly handsome. Clever with his hands, and all, but Aphrodite isn't into brains and talents. She likes bikers, Percy said. Whatever. Does Hephaestus know? Oh, yeah, he knows, Naruto chuckled. He caught them together once, Annabeth explained, I mean, literally them, in a golden net, and invited all the gods to come and laugh at them. Hephaestus is always trying to embarrass them. So when did Hephaestus started having kids with mortal women? Naruto asked. I mean, if he's still pulling Toget. Her traps for Aphrodite and Ares for cheating on him all those eons ago, and yet he has kids with mortal women. Well, the story goes after the first trap, Hephaestus started having children with other women and goddesses. But I think he still holds a grudge against his wife and brother, Annabeth said. That's why Ares and Aphrodite would meet in out-of-the-way places, like. She stopped, looking straight ahead. Like that. In front of them was an empty pool that was at least 50 yards across and shaped like a bowl. Around the rim, a dozen bronze statues of Cupid stood guard with wings spread and bows ready to fire. On the opposite side from them, a tunnel opened up, probably where the water flowed into the pool was full. The sign above it read, Thrill Ride O Love, this is not your parents' tunnel of love. Grover crept toward the edge. Guys, look. Marooned at the bottom of the pool was a pink and white two-seater boat with a canopy over the top and little hearts painted all over it. The left seat, glinting in the fading light, was Ares' shield, a polished circle of bronze. This is too easy, Percy said. It can't be that easy, Naruto said. I'm going to look around and see if I can find any signs of Hephaestus' trap. With that Naruto headed off to investigate the pool. Annabeth ran her fingers along the base of the nearest Cupid statue. There's a Greek letter carved here, she said. Ada. I wonder. Grover. Percy said. You smell any monsters? He sniffed the wind. Nothing. Nothing. Like, in the arch, and you didn't smell echidna, nothing, or really nothing. Grover looked hurt. I told you. That was underground. Okay, I'm sorry. Percy took a deep breath. I'm going down there. I'll go with you. Grover wasn't very enthusiastic, but Percy guessed it was Hi's way to make up for not being able to tell Echidna was a monster. No, Percy told him. I want you to stay up top with the flying shoes. You're the Red Baron, a flying ace, remember. I'm counting on you and Naruto with his ninja skills for backup in case something goes wrong. Grover puffed his chest a little. Sure. But what could go wrong? I don't know. Just a feeling, Percy replied. Annabeth, come with me. Are you kidding? She looked at Percy as if he'd just dropped from the moon. Her cheeks were bright red. What's the problem now? Percy demanded. Me, go with you to the thrill ride of love. How embarrassing is that? What if somebody saw me? Who's going to see you? But Percy was blushing now too. Fine, he told her. I'll do it myself. But when he started down the side of the pool, Annabeth followed him, muttering about how boys always messed things up. Meanwhile, Naruto was investigating the controls and found nothing. He was about to give up when something caught his eye, a golden wire. A trip wire, Naruto said. Could this be the trigger? Just then he heard grinding sounds of a million gears. Naruto looked and saw that the Cupid statues were drawn. Their bows from the edges and fire arrows. They laned at the other end with silky cables attack. Then smaller metallic threads started weaving together magically between the main strands, making a net. Naruto rushed over to Grover, who was trying to help Percy and Annabeth by opening a section of the net. But when he touched it, the golden threads started to wrap around his hands. What happened? Naruto yelled. Percy triggered the trap when he picked up Ares' shield, Annabeth said. It wasn't my fault. There was a trip wire attached, Percy yelled. Naruto whistled. Hephaestus must have planned this in case Ares went back for his shield. I'm quite impressed. Naruto, this is not the time to be impressed. Annabeth yelled. The Cupids' heads popped open. Out came a video cameras. Spotlights rose up all around the pool, blinding Percy and Annabeth, and a loudspeaker voice boomed. Light to Olympus in 1 minute, 59 seconds, 58. Great. Now we're going to be broadcast live Oh Olympus and look like absolutely fools. Annabeth screamed. Hold on. Naruto took out a celestial bronze kunai from his pouch and started trying to cut the wires. That's when a row of mirrors opened. D-like hatches and thousands of tiny 8-legged metallic spider poured out in a wave of clacking, whirling metal. Spiders. Annabeth screamed. SP, SP, ah. Naruto was also reminded of his old fear of spiders as his hands started trembling. Naruto, you okay? You need me to take over? Grover asked. No, I'm okay, Naruto responded as thought. Get a hold of yourself, your friends need you. Yuto sharpened his kunai with wind chakra as best as he could, using what he learned about wind chakra from his grandparents' scrolls. Meanwhile, Percy had to pull Annabeth up and dragged her back toward the boat. The metallic SP spiders were coming out from all around the rim, millions of them, flooding toward the center of the pool and surrounded them. Percy managed to get himself and Annabeth on the boat. Percy started kicking the spiders as they swarmed the aboard. Annabeth, help! Percy yelled. Annabeth only responded with a scream while being paralyzed in fear. Percy. Annabeth is terrified of spiders. You'll have to deal with them yourself for now. Naruto yelled. Percy looked up at his blonde ninja friend and saw that Naruto was trying to cut through the threads while his hands were trembling slightly. He guessed that Naruto must have had the same fear as Annabeth, only difference was that Naruto seemed to have overcome it enough to help with the situation. 3029, called the loudspeaker. The spiders started spitting out strands of metal threads, trying to tie Percy and Annabeth down. The strands were easy for Percy to break at first, but they were so many of them, caused by so many spiders coming, that Percy couldn't stop them alone. Percy kicked one away from Annabeth's leg and its pincers took a chunk out of his new surf shoe. 1514, the loudspeaker called. We get it. Naruto growled. No good, Even if I cut through, those metallic spiders could still be a problem. Grover, go to the booth and find the on switch. Percy yelled. What? Naruto caught onto Percy's plan. Percy. It's no good. The controls are disabled. 5, 4. Percy started muttering incoherent words. He then closed his eyes as if he was focusing. 2, 1, 0. Water exploded out of the pipes. It roared into the pool, sweeping. Percy went from struggling against spiders to keeping Annabeth and himself on the boat while preventing it from capsizing. Naruto finally cut the ropes enough where people could get in and out. Naruto quickly created a shadow clone. Keep the hole open. The clone nodded as Grover flew down to the pool. Naruto applied chakra to his feet and jumped through the hole and landed on top of the water before following Grover. They found Percy and Annabeth just as they were thrown off their boats. Naruto jumped and grabbed Annabeth as Grover caught Percy. Grover flew to the asphalt as Naruto landed on the water and jumped over the gates and pool before landing on solid asphalt. Grover and Percy weren't so lucky as they landed into the photo board. You guys okay? Naruto asked. Yeah, I think so, Percy said. The Cupids turned to the four of them along with the spotlights. Naruto got a bright idea. He walked up to the nearest camera and did a bow like he was putting up a show and announced, "Thank you gods and goddesses of Olympus for watching. This broadcast is brought to you by Ares sending us to retrieve his shield. Remember, you got Ares to blame for not warning us about Hephaestus' trap. Good night Olympus." The cameras stopped rolling as they retreated back into the statue and the spotlights went back to wherever they were before. Percy and Grover lost it as they burst out laughing. Even Annabeth was having a hard time scolding at Naruto for what he just did as she was biting her lip in order to not laugh. Come on guys. We better return the shield, Annabeth said once Percy and Grover stopped laughing. They left the park, still amused by Naruto's little stunt. That's it for today, I will stop here. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you please consider subscribe and make sure to hit that like button, share with your friends and don't forget to check out author of this story. Details in description.